most people, they can get a really nice result just by changing something that isn't quite as fundamental. And by the way, they do a lot better if they could, but sleep is I always push against the open door. So if you're the guy that has two takeaways a day, but you also sleep at 2 a.m., I'm going after the takeaways. Takeaways are easier.
So Chris, you have, I need to clarify this. Design for Life Fitness is
Correct.
your company.
Yes.
Okay. And then there is something called Combo Plan.
Yes.
And that is?
The Combo Plan's the name of the nutrition plans I give to people because I realized that Design for Life Fitness should really be called Design for Life Nutrition. But I didn't think that far ahead, did I? So I'm kind of feeling it like sort of like an iPhone Apple thing, but obviously not nearly as elegant. Basically, okay. Yeah. That was like because people said to me like, "What are your nutrition plans called?" And I was like, "The nutrition plan I give you," which sucks. Yeah. So it was like the sort of marketing part of me was like, "What's the USP of this?" You know, and the USP is well, I'm sure we'll talk about it. We might talk about that. Anyway, one part is the combos. That's why.
Okay, so Design for Life Fitness and the Combo Plan.
Yeah, the Combo Plan is kind of like the product, I suppose.
Okay,
isn't it? One
that's
of the
your
products.
product.
Yeah.
All right. So that's what I want to go into a lot. Nutrition, supplements, macros, absolutely everything. What you do, how you do it, what's your take on nutrition for people, and so on. First thing first.
Okay.
Who are your clients? Not necessarily how you're getting them, just what's the profile? Yeah, what's the profile of your clients?
So the profile of my clients, I like to work with people because I have the advantage of working for myself as opposed to off camera. We were just talking about the pros and cons of working for someone else. And one of the drastic pros of working for yourself is you can choose your clients, and also if you're not hyper driven by money, which many people are, but I gave up that life a while ago.
Okay.
You don't have to constantly be, as a business owner, I suppose, more than anything else, you don't have to be constantly in search of financial growth all of the time. Thus, I can kind of pick and choose who I work with because we all know that, I don't know what the percentage is, but virtually everyone on the planet could probably do with some help, if we're being really honest, especially here. So I tend to work with people. I work with people who train, essentially. I work with people who train and want to get better. So I don't care if you're the person in the class who's coming last, or you're the person who's coming first, or you're the coach, or you're the athlete on TV that's inspiring that person.
Okay.
But you have to train. I want you to be active in some regard.
Okay, so that's one of your, let's say, conditions for
to
become your client. I need to be training.
Yeah, and I don't mean like I'm going to prescribe you to do loads of things. I just mean that we all I'm going to just speak candidly the whole time, right? So we all have our Auntie Janine. I'm just going to make up Janine's name, who like talks to you about dietary advice or anything, and we know that Janine just doesn't get it. Janine's tried everything, you know, keto. She does HIIT workouts and then she stops. Blah blah blah. You know. I'm not interested, to be honest, because I've only got a finite amount of time on this earth right now. And there's a million other programs for Jean, or whatever her name is, Janine, and they're trying to rip her off. Let's be honest. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to take $25, buy this program, it's online, we'll never see you again. Not interested in any of that. I'm just interested in forming a relationship with someone and helping them. But there's a finite amount of time, as I say, so I like to push on the old open door. And if the open door is someone who already trains and is trying to improve, but there's something wrong or something can be optimized, that's an awesome relationship. I don't go into it going, right, I know you don't like moving, so let's start with getting you off the sofa. Those people exist, don't get me wrong, and that's great. But I suppose we have 24 hours in a day and I've got loads of other stuff going on and I feel like I can get the most impact and also just enjoy my job better. So I work with people who train. Okay.
So you not necessarily have clients, or did you have this experience that you actually got somebody who came to you that they want your nutrition plan?
Yeah.
And they were not training before and you made them? Or that's not happening?
Do you know, I do have because obviously everything on camera, everything in a podcast, I always find seems really black and white. It's like, this is what it is. But life isn't black and white. It's full of shades of grey. So there are people, to be frank, there are people I have worked with who don't train. But it isn't usually from a place of just like sheer, frankly, laziness. Like, for example, I'm obviously client confidentiality. I'm not going to talk about names. But there's a lady.
You can make up names.
Yeah, make up a name. I can't. I'm not consistent with the names. So there's a lady I work with for like it's like, I think it's like 8 months in a row. And dropped her weight. She was like, I don't know, 110 kgs, I think. And we got it lower and lower and lower. She was terrified of the gym. She didn't want to train, but it wasn't because she didn't want to move her body, as it were. She really wanted to do Zumba, but she was 110 kgs and she felt dreadful about herself. So it's more the case of going, well, why don't we start with, I never tell people to start with a prescription of doing training. I just say, what do you do now? And for this lady, it was like, well, I don't really do, I want to, but I get so paranoid when I go into the gym that I feel awful. So it's like, well, let's just start with the food and then let's see what comes. Fast forward 4 months, and it is 4 months. Because we all know, well, maybe we don't all know, I know you know, that if you can get the food basics right, that's a lot of progress can just come from that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like that's it. So therefore, 4 months on, it just so happens that her mindset's changed because she's been in control of her food and therefore control of her habits, and she's lost 20 odd kilos and she just feels
better.
So she just starts going. I never told her to go.
Wow.
Okay.
But may I ask, what was her fear from the gym? Was it people judging, or how she feels, or how she looks like? Because people sometimes, over here, they always think like, oh, this is how I look like, and I don't want to be perceived that way.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm not sure whether it's an innate fear, isn't it? It's a fear of like, not being good enough or being judged or being. Now, whether that actually is true or not is a kind of a different matter.
Oh, yeah. Although, yeah, like we have that a lot. A lot of people choosing personal training for that reason. A lot of people don't want to have a personal training when there are people around. They don't care that they will wake up at 5 a.m., but they don't want to be seen.
Okay.
Yeah, and
100%.
they just. Sorry.
It's 100% correct.
Yeah. Like basically the whole thing is about they are not feeling confident about presenting themselves, and they might feel silly because. You're vulnerable when you're learning new movement. Correct. And you're not doing everything 100% right at the beginning, or maybe not even 5% right, it doesn't matter. And people don't like to be seen as incapable, so they just avoid it completely. And then there are people who just don't care, and it's way easier with them.
And there you go. In 4 months, she actually felt better and decided, you know what, to progress even better and become more good in whatever I'm doing to myself, let me go to the gym.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm not even sure it was part of a sort of like, sort of level of progression. I think it was more, as in like physically. I think it was just, I just feel good because it's interesting you say about people, especially being vulnerable when they're doing a new movement. Like I do CrossFit, but I'm a regular like class member, right? Like if it's a snatch workout, and Paolo was my coach and he knows I am diabolical at that movement. And I have been for like 5 years, and I don't work on it. I'm sorry, I just don't, right? Now, if that's a choice, if someone that you get on the barbell, I don't want to be in front of Paolo. I don't want to be at the front of the class, because I know there's like 4 guys behind me.
And fairly nobody wants to stand in front of you.
I'm like, hit me up, let's go to the back, bro. That's where I want to be, right?
Yep.
I think in her case, though, it wasn't about the fact that I think she was bloody good at Zumba. I've never watched her do Zumba. I've no idea if she's good or not. I know. But I know that she just felt good enough to go. And I'm fine with... Sorry, I'm more than fine with that. If the reason the company's called Designed for Life Fitness is because it should last for life. Mm-hmm. Both life in terms of longevity, but also life in terms of I've had a terrible few months. It was Christmas. I've smashed a zillion calories and now I'm back or whatever, So yeah, that's her, I suppose. So I make it sound really black and white, but the honest answer is I think it is a mindset piece. Like I know all of my clients. I'm like, just so we're clear, like I'm not like secretly like, selling like some V-shred sort of thing in Australia or something. Like I know my clients, And
by know, you mean personally know?
I know all my clients. Yeah, exactly. And the only people I don't know, as in I've never actually like shaken hands with or whatever, COVID permitting, is people who are recommended to me, and then I've spoken to them at length on Zoom, obviously, you know. And there's a few people I work with, not in this country, but I've usually worked with them here. And because Dubai's, you know, well, until now, I suppose it's going to start again. People leave Dubai because people come here for a few years and then they go. So I've got, you know, client in London, client here, client there, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I have the same.
Yeah, right.
Client in Switzerland, client in Germany. It's all around.
Yeah, it's all good. I just find that, I think again, it's just that thing of going, well, this is selfish now, but like, how do I want to spend my time on Earth? Like, and it isn't, to be frank, like pretending to know some rando woman from, you know, wherever, you know, Finland.
We had this conversation with other coaches so many times that you usually will get 10 to 15%, let's say, of your gym or of your clients, whatever the sample is. 10 to 15 are the ones who are taking 90% of your energy.
100%.
Yeah. And that's what kind of you are saying. Like, you will choose who you work with because you're not going to spend time with people who are just sucking you out and not really taking it seriously. And
yeah, exactly. And people, by the way, don't believe that, of course. They're like, yeah, sure. Give me the money.
And that's the ones.
yeah, exactly.
That's the 15%.
Whenever I meet anyone, if I meet someone at the start and they want my help, I'll say, great, this is an anti-sales meeting, an anti-sales call. I don't want to work with you. That's where I start with. Don't work with me. Like, I know for a fact that in terms of pure book knowledge, Paolo destroys me. You know, that's fine. And there are so many other coaches that do, right? That's fine. And I'm looking for a way not to work with every single person who rings me up or speaks to me. Because I'm like, there are so many good options. So that's actually not true. I'm lying. There are hardly any good options. But there are a few, if that makes sense. And I'm happy to send people there, whether it's a dietitian or a PT or whatever else. That's fine. It only works when it just so happens that the thing they want seems to tally up with the thing that I do. And I'm like, okay, sort of thing.
So in this case, you look at yourself as a consultant.
In a sense, I suppose, yeah. Like, so I'm very much a fan of, because I work with some fairly like decent people, sort of thing. Like, I suppose a good example would be, I think Under Armour have run that competition in the Middle East, like the one in Dubai for the last like 4 years, apart from COVID or whatever. So like I work with both the female and the male winner of that, say, for example, and both of those guys, the male winner of that, he's got a sports science degree, you know, he knows what he's talking about. So of course, like, why am I gonna what's my role here? What's the point?
To a question, so I believe that because I did kind of nutrition on the side as well. It was part of my studies and so on. And, you know, when people ask, I just tell them what I think and feel is best for them. If you're doing nutrition, it's 100% only consultancy because you can't feed them. You can't really buy the food for them.
You can't advising them, basically.
You only can tell them what you think is the best, and the rest is on them.
Yes, I think when I think of what I actually do for a living, really, and how I change people, I describe myself as like an executive assistant, or even like a personal assistant, really. So I don't work with very many people, but my job is to go, right, well, you let me learn about your life. Let me learn about all of it. And I'm like a fixer. So I'm like, right, is it the case that you pig out at 3 p.m. because you forget to order a food, or you forget to buy food, or forget to prep or whatever? Fine, you need to do this. Or do you need meal prep? I'll sort that. I just sort anything that's required to get them to a point where I know that their routine will allow them to keep their energy balance in a good place and to keep the food quality fairly high and to keep their macros fairly consistent. So I'm a fixer, to be honest.
I like the way you said it.
Yeah, that's what.
Let me understand how things goes in your life, and then I see where the flows are, and I'll fix it for you.
Yeah,
and let me see how you progress.
Absolutely. And the people, I'm just going to carry on talking if that's all right. So yeah, right. So
that's fine.
Hey, yeah, the people who do the best, I find, are the people who like it's you know, shit in, shit out, or you put out where you get in, sort of thing. The people who do the best are the people who will give me the information. I'm not, a bit like Paolo, I'm not afraid of onboarding information, especially about people. So whenever I ask 80 questions up front. There's actually 82 now. Like, and they're they're macro level stuff, i.e. like, you know, how do you feel about yourself? Where do you want to be in X amount of time, etc. But the macro falls down unless the minimal details are bang on. So like I, for example, I walked into this studio today. I just out of force of habit clocked, is there a shop near here? The shop downstairs is not yet open. Interesting. I wonder where they order from. That's interesting. I want to know specifically where you order from. Do you like mint? Which mint, dry or not, right? Because if, for example, we've got all the big picture going on, it's all great, but I ask you to have something that you don't like, when you're hungry or in a bad mood, you ain't going to do it. If you're in a really good mood and you feel good, you're going to do it. My job is to, when I present my advice to you, is to give you nothing that raises your like heckles, nothing. You're like, this is normal, this is normal, this is normal. Just do the normal, excellent. And then over time, we get the progress. So you're
slowly cooking the frog.
It is like, apparently slowly cooking the frog. Apparently that's not true, by the way. Apparently that's apparently, I heard that, apparently that doesn't actually happen. Anyway, apparently it jumps out.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, I was like, no, that's a waste of an analogy. Damn it. I don't know. But yeah, that's exactly, but it is like that, exactly. Mm-hmm. Although, to be honest, actually, just to play with your analogy for a sec, it isn't slowly cooking the frog in the sense that, for example, for that woman, if you do the first bit of cooking the frog, which is like just getting her to eat regular meals, I don't care where they're from really, but like regular things, and she starts to lose a bit of weight, job done. Mm-hmm. There is no more cooking of the frog. She's not going to win the CrossFit Games. She doesn't want to win the CrossFit Games, you know, or anything really. She doesn't want to do at some point you go, some people want to take it to the nth level. Some people want to, I had a girl who like worked with me, won the transformation at Dubai Muscle Show, quit her job, and is now a full-time bodybuilder and got a pro card. Changed her life. Amazing. She's but she's the exception, not the norm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and by the way, she was amazing because I tell her to do something and she'd do it and she'd read about it. By the end, she knew more than me. Like that great, good on her.
Well, that's when your job is done.
Then I'm like, yeah, nice one, move on, you know? But there is But there is a temptation, of course, at that point to go, oh, she's doing really well. Oh, maybe I should try and crowbar my way into this story. Like, I'll carry on. Like, maybe I should... What happens if she's a professional bodybuilder? Maybe she needs a nutritionist. Maybe, you know. Maybe. And then
But because that's not the end goal for you.
100%. No. And that's because the background of what I'm not sure if you're going to ask about, say anyway, the background of what I did. So I was in food marketing and I came out to the region in 2016, knowing I was going to essentially do a job in food marketing, and then I was going to quit once I made enough money to do something that was net positive for the world, not net negative. Because I've basically advertised and, quote, stretched the truth for very famous beverage brands, very famous chocolate brands, very famous takeout brands in the region. I was like, ugh. Now, when I decided to pivot my professional skill into I don't know what I'm doing, and then set this up, I zeroed my salary. I was like, long discussion with my wife. I was like, zero. I took a lot of pride in that. You know, you can make good money in Dubai if you've got the right job.
I met you actually that time.
Yeah, right then. I was like, oh, that's it. I've had enough of this. I was destroyed, and I didn't love it. In fact, I hated it, to be really honest. So whenever the thing arises where I have a client who is like all in, who takes it, the frog gets boiled and then more. It's interesting because the experience of, it's a really freeing experience having money and then just stop. I mean, I didn't go and live in the woods, just to be clear. Like, my wife had a job, and to be frank, I wouldn't have been able to do it without her. It's very hard for me to sit here and go like, how did I keep my visa? Do you know? Yeah. So like, but it's very freeing to know that you can. Like, that's amazing. And so therefore, I try and the better part of me goes, just relax, just move on and do your job and try and change someone else. Don't go clambering after someone. It's a waste of time.
Chris, when we think about basically three main things or categories people are trying to sort out about their nutrition. That's quality.
Yeah.
Quality of the food.
A lot of people aren't trying to solve that out.
Okay.
But yeah,
Correct.
quality. Yeah.
Quality. We have quality, quantity, and then timing.
Yeah.
If we will very much simplify it. What is your system or the way? You don't have to tell us all the secrets.
Secrets. There's no secrets.
Yeah, that's what I thought. What is it based on? So
are
you focusing on? so you don't have a specific protocol of let's say macro ratios.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. So very much so. So the system. So the system is based on. It's actually, funnily enough, it's based on a mixture of my. It's based on my old career. So my old career was basically getting data about food and telling it in a way that allows people to feel good about eating said food. I'm not going to mention the brands, but there was famous brands, whatever. That was my kind of job.
It's not that hard to guess it.
Yeah. And funnily enough, so my actual plans. I didn't set out to do what I'm doing, by the way. I had a total freak out at one point, and I got my personal training qualifications and stuff. Lol. I was like, oh. But so I got really hacked off with. I'd always been annoyed with how I saw the sort of the nutritionists and nutrition plans, because I just thought they weren't detail heavy enough, but also not accessible enough. It was a sort of weird combination of things. And my first ever nutrition plan was based on a finance forecasting spreadsheet. If anyone does business, you gotta go, right, well, this is my month, this is what I've got to do, hit by the end of the year. It's all done in pounds and pence or dirhams and fils and whatever else. I just started swapping stuff out. I was like, could those pounds just be calories? Sort of thing. And so I just started literally just hammering around in Microsoft Excel.
So you made it a math problem, actually.
I made it because fundamentally it is a math problem. This is the thing. It fundamentally is a math problem, but the maths has to be part of a super emotional problem. If you get the maths right, that's great, but the maths only works on paper. It doesn't work in real life. Yep. So, and I think I come across sometimes as being quite fluffy, as in with this, I don't know. But underneath it, there has to be a backbone of steel with the numbers. I am obsessed with the accuracy of the data that I have, especially food data, which ironically is funny because food is.
What do you mean by food data?
So what I mean,
it's not only what your clients eat, right?
How do you mean? Oh right, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
there's much more into it.
Absolutely, yeah. Although the food data point though is interesting though, because say for example, I'm going to tell someone to eat, I don't know, if I'm going to write a plan for someone and. Right, let's break this down, right? I won't, not the way I think you expect. I'm going to write a plan for someone. Everyone who gets said plan and talks to me is going to, at some level, be lying to me or themselves. Because that's what we're like about everything. I lie to myself about when I go to bed. We always lie about little things to ourselves, all the time. So let's just say, you meet a person who's training really hard. I'll use you as an example. Training quite hard, we've got an office job, I said, write your plan, great. If you start following the plan, you're like, Chris, I'm doing everything, but it's not working. Let's just say, I don't know, you want to lose 5 kgs, that'll do. And it's just not happening. I have to basically at some point have the confidence to go, I know my numbers aren't screwed. Because there's a lot of variables there. If you think about all of the things you're doing and taking in, if the data is not rock solid, I cannot go, I believe that what I've given is accurate. Because if I don't believe that, and then you say it's not working, is it you or is it me?
Mm. But then you also have to, this data, what you're talking about, that's also the emotional input from the clients. That's also their state of mind.
Absolutely.
Hormonal profile, maybe.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah?
Sometimes, when they get blood work with them. Yeah. So to answer your question, my actual system it's a calorie system. It is a calorie system. Mm-hmm. So it's just basic thermodynamics, I suppose, right, great. So it is a calorie play. I have to know what that is. Great. And then I do have specific, profiles around protocols around macros as well, right? But I sum it up like that.
Would it be something similar to the zone diet, like 40% carbs, 30% protein, 30% fat, roughly?
If you want me to, I can get slightly granular on my plan if you want. If it might be helpful.
Well, I'm interested.
Right. Okay. Great. Sure. Yeah. Are you right? Right. So the combo plan. The premise of the combo plan is I'm going to talk to this man because he might really never know if I want to sign up.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So the premise of the combo plan, I've summed it up as variety for the eyes, repetition for the body. And what I mean by variety for the eyes and repetition for the body is the whole thing about losing or gaining, to be frank, in a sustainable way is minimizing stress at all times. Like minimizing all stress, whether that's dietary stress, feast or famine, whatever else. Could be work stress, could be anything, right? Great, nice. So the idea behind that is variety for the eyes means that it's quite... I meet a lot of people who just eat chicken, broccoli and rice and then have tried that, lost 20 kilos and then screwed up and then... Because it's actually quite stressful to eat the same thing over and over again.
Absolutely.
So you want to know you've got a degree of variety. You want to know you've got a bit of choice. You want to know if you really want a Big Mac, you can have a Big Mac. You might not have one, but you want to know you've got an out. You know, like that's it. That sort of thing. Great. Variety for the eyes. So the idea is the combo plan is born out of this idea that I want to provide people with enough. If you want a cookie, fine. Right. You can have anything you want, sweet, savory, whatever else. But it has to be some degree of repetition for the body because the body doesn't like feast or famine. It wants predictableness. Your physiology actually quite likes having just especially not insane changes all the time.
This is very underrated how we really work super well on strict regime.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that physically,
not only food wise, but sleep, everything. The more regular you are, the body can predict what's going to happen. You'll
exactly,
be way more okay with it. Right?
I totally agree, and it's why I suppose CrossFit and progressive overload is just so decent as well.
To understand this correctly, so suppose I'm a person that eats 3 meals a day.
Great.
And then there was one day where I only had 2 meals.
Yeah.
Then in this case, I've damaged something in the process of my body understanding what's going on, right?
I would say less in terms of physiology, to be frank, because I don't even know, to be honest. But I can tell you this: if you're the sort of person who usually eats 3 meals a day, but occasionally you have 2 meals a day, my observation about those types of people, or by the way, that's very common. It's basically everyone in a sense, right? Is that when you have those days where you're only having 2 or whatever, what it usually comes along with is those 2 meals are really odd, or there's a reason why you've missed that 3rd meal. You probably maybe you were at a wedding and it was huge. Maybe you had a meeting that ran until 10 p.m. at night and you crashed or whatever. And what happens is, of course, is the next day, physically or emotionally, things start to go a bit odd. Yeah, you know how that is. So what I say to my clients is, in terms of variety for the eyes, repetition for the body, I say, great, so I'm going to let you have anything you want. Unless if it's not illegal, that's on the plan. Everything's on the plan. And then only later we'll start to clean it up, I suppose. So I'm super permissive. I'm like, Pop-Tarts me up. Right, that's fine. But we need to have some degree of repetition for the body. And for example, for you, it might be, I would like you to have those 3 meals you have. Your aim is to have 3 meals. Now, those 3 meals, which are called combos on my plan, which is just short for combination of food, KFC combo meal or whatever, right? You know, I have different types of, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that a potato is an apple, right? Because I'm not. But there is a certain degree of going. For example, for you, I might say, okay, well, I've talked to you enough to know that a normal size meal for you that you feel kind of good on is, say, around about 600 calories. Great. Okay, cool. Nice one. I'm going to give you 4 million things that you can have for that. And I don't care if it's a pizza or not or whatever. I just want you to have 3 of them a day. Just 3. That's it. That's all you need to do. And if you want to go out, and sometimes you want to go out to Pickle and have you want to have a chicken sando, good effort. I reckon that's probably 2 of them. You know,
within that 600 calorie meal,
for example,
yeah, there would be a certain ratio of macros that you want to follow within each meal.
Yeah, within 5%. But the idea is that I figure that out. They don't. So
absolutely, but I'm asking
absolutely,
you.
yeah. And it would be close, and it usually be close to the zone diet. But I don't generally look at it from that which is 40% carbs, 30% protein, 30% fat. Just in case anyone doesn't know what that is, right? You know, the argument being that it gives you an optimum amount, etc., etc. I just like the zone diet, by the way, because you can have anything on the zone diet. If you want to make a meal that's 40% carbs, 30% fat, and 30% protein, you can basically engineer any meal to be like that. And the most obvious example is like, you know, pizza. You can make that work. But to be frank, like, and this is not elegant, but you could even have bloody protein with your Rice Krispies if you really wanted to. You can make it work.
I've seen personally a guy who on a zone diet got a handful of almonds.
Right. That's his fast. Nailed it.
A donut.
It's a real Lane Norton if it's your macros job.
Yeah. Okay. So he was basically a donut and some other bullshit next to it.
Right.
Just mind blow, right?
Right.
Because he was feeling good about it. Because he was still following the diet.
Well, yeah, and this is where the intersection of food quality comes in, right? However, to be real, bro, like for people who, it's very rare to meet people who have that. Well, it's not rare if you talk to professional athletes. But to meet people who just can say, I eat 3 meals a day and I always eat 3 meals a day. And, and I go, okay, cool. How big? And you go, like, about 600 calories. That level of just doing that. What I do is when I'm asking the questions, and you can generally tell by people's demeanor and their skin and other things as well, like how much trash do they eat, sort of thing, right? You know? Now, if most people who work with me, because I get to choose, don't generally habitually eat that much like that, they don't generally do things like that. So if they do, if they're out of the cinema one night, good. Go for it, bro. Get into Krispy Kreme. Excellent. Do it. Also, to be real, because I am being like super real about this, there are people who, the people who do eat like that a lot, they can't handle anything else. So that at the beginning, it's like, let's just start with that. Just let's establish a system, and you have to have a Krispy Kreme every day. I work with a guy who I'll remain nameless. He was having 2 takeouts a day, and there were a variety of things. You know, it could be Burger King, McDonald's, whatever. You know, or Pizza Hut or Subway. Right, there were those things. And I was like, Subway's interesting, actually, because he was on 2 takeaways a day. He's not going to suddenly be eating quinoa and boiled this and that. That's not how that rolls. So I was like, great, nice one. For this week, I want you to have a foot-long Subway every day, without exception. Like, don't have the other one. Don't have the Pizza Hut. If you're really gagging for a Pizza Hut, have a Subway. Because I know after 3 bites, it's all good. Get the meatball marinara. Excellent. Nice one. He just hemorrhaged weight. Because, of course, by having one naughty, really quite filling takeaway, he was just, and knowing that was his system, that was one of his 3 meals or whatever. Great. That's what he has to have. Okay, great. Nice one. He lost like 30 kgs just by doing that.
It's because he still had the pleasure of having whatever he wanted to have, but at the same time, you didn't imprison him.
It's just, exactly. There's a sort of elegant art, isn't there, to like having a structure that's like makes you feel safe, that doesn't feel like, you're being coerced into doing something. And to be honest, I was really paranoid starting doing this job about the way I looked, like about the way I'm not that fit. I'm quite good at running. I was quite good at running. Not that good, you know? And I was really paranoid about it. Because, like, you see these guys, like, Palace looks bloody great. Like, you know, awesome, great, nice one. And I would find it really intimidating, actually. Like, so now, like, so I'm on staff at CrossFit Alaith, right? Or Alaith, right? I don't look like anyone at that gym, right? Like, it just freaked me out. Then I realized but quite a lot of the time, even people who are really fit and really into it don't care. They want you to be a maths guy. They just want you to sit at a laptop and just tell them what to do all the time. And people who don't look like that don't want to interact with those people a lot of the time, especially around food, around training. Sign me up. That guy looks like that. Let's go. He can show me my example. Great. When it comes to food, I think, in my experience, it's about making the relationship as unintimidating as possible. And that's me saying, for example, things like, for example, last night, me and my wife was feeling a bit tired. she went downstairs and she bought a block of Milka chocolate, and she bought the one with strawberries inside, the strawberry cream inside it, because it was 4 dirhams. I was like, sign me up. But I like that because the athletes I work with don't care. They're like, lol, idiot. But everyone else loves it because it's like, because we're all going to screw up. All of us are going to screw up. And I imagine, I could be wrong, but I'm sat here in your studio where you're self-employed, you have your own control. You don't, right? So it's more likely you're going to make bad decisions because, well, meetings go on forever, sort of thing. So I think, yeah, I've derailed this conversation, sorry.
Oh, good, it's going well. At what point, just to make it a little bit more clear, because
sure.
I think I know what you're talking about, but it wasn't said yet.
Yep.
You basically starting to create a certain frame
Exactly.
around people's life.
Yes.
Which they can always, at least they know what to expect from what is going to happen. So there is this prediction and then actual experience balance because they know what's going to happen. And that is slowly, not only creating certain habits that at the beginning might not be the best habits, but it's creating certain habits which you eventually modify.
If I eventually modify, if we need to boil the frog. But if we don't, I don't bother. And it's just that they just live their lives.
So at some point, so you're saying that it happened to you that you had a client who you only told, making this up, yeah, you have this Subway meal every day.
Yeah.
And he started to do so well that was your job done.
No, that's a very good point. No, so I didn't say see you later. No, because that's the way I work with people. If you specifically is so let's say that you want to work with me or whatever. Then I only work with people for a month. So I'm a monthly guy, as in. You can work with me for longer, if that makes sense, but there's nothing worse than I'm sure we've all been trapped in these relationships, especially with gyms, where we've paid for 6 months and blah, it's just not working, etc. And also vice versa, like, I don't want to do a job where it turns out I don't get on with a person. What's the point? No, don't want to do that. Don't want to spend 6 months being drained of energy. So I have a really weird business model. So every single month, I have to prove my worth. And I just ask the person every single month, the people. I have a system for it, but essentially they have to give me their sort of like, they have to buy in all the time. Now, the reason that's relevant is because if I have developed a relationship where I'm always providing value, I'm never going to leave anyone solely reliant upon Subways. Like, essentially, because that would be a recipe which would be like, you only lose weight if you eat Subway, which is incredibly destructive. Mentally, like, it's incredible. It's like ridiculous. But so the distinction is, say if it's a combo plan. Let's just say that the meatball marinara is 1,200 calories. It's probably not, and there's a certain set of macros. Let's say he's on 600 calorie combos. Great. So that's 2 combos, if that makes sense. But there's a load of other 600 calorie combos out there. The meal that his mother makes, like a fattoush salad, Nando's, cereal, Optimum Nutrition protein shake, whatever else. The trick is to get the person to understand to essentially up level their food quality in that instance. Because I would never leave someone in a sort of scenario where they basically believe that junk food was the only way down, because it's unethical.
It's not. Yeah.
It's not, and it's unethical, I suppose, as well. Also, like, so as to your point in terms of making it clear, yeah, you do. You develop a relationship where you teach people the basics of the basic routine. That's it. And then week by week by week, you build on it.
So you build them a plan that is based on certain meal package, let's say.
Yeah.
You call it combo.
I do.
Yeah, you call it combo. That's why combo plan.
Yeah.
And that meal can be basically put on from so many different ways because it's supposed to have this amount of carbs, this amount of fat, this amount of protein, which ends up to be certain amount of calories, and basically this is your unit.
Correct.
And you're supposed to find and repeat, and you're probably providing them with the list of things where they can find it.
Exactly, and if it may be the case that literally or where they can find it, order it, make it. The idea is that you should have an option for hot, cold, easy, hard, depressed, not depressed, payday, rich, all of it. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. When you do this, are training and non-training days different in the amount of food people are taking? So it's even out through the week.
So with training day and non-training days are funny to me. Funny because
of the recovery, right?
Unfortunately, no, it's not because. Well, no, it is. Yes, okay, fine. It is because of that.
I mean it the way that when you have a rest day, it's for a reason, and it's the reason is to recover. So you still need the fuel.
Rather than the classic bodybuilder thing of zeroing your carbs on a rest day, right? So people there's a lot of expectations with nutritionists, and that's probably because it's not a very well regulated field. Anyone can say they're a nutritionist, right? So you get all manner of cowboys, etc., right? And even people who are super qualified can be awful, to be frank, because that's how that's how the world is. Can you repeat the question? I forgot what I was talking about.
Okay, I was asking about non-training and training days.
Oh, great, that's fine. Yeah, so non-training days. So whenever I meet someone and present them their plan, I always present in person. Sometimes takes, the longest meeting I've ever had was 9 hours.
Oh, wow.
Lawyer, she's smashed it now, but she's like, I need to know everything. I cannot proceed unless I know everything. So she cross-examined my plan. I loved it, actually. It was just an excuse to just talk and talk. She bought lunch. Damn right she did. Training day and non-training is really easy, right, really interesting to me. Because I completely agree with Paolo. It is the case that, especially I generally work with people in the CrossFit space. I'd rather have people on a rest day eating enough food so I know they're recovered. But also, I'd rather have people on a rest day eating the routine. Just because it's a rest day throws everything off. I used to go to the gym and now I don't. Weekends are hard because weekends are different, right? I just want people to eat 3 meals. By the way, I don't care how many meals you have either. As long as whatever meals you already have, have them. Now, whenever I meet someone and I present to them, there's a usual expectation that I'll give them a training day and a rest day macro. Mm-hmm. Honestly, though, at the beginning, I don't know what calories or what macros they should be on. Why do I know? I don't know. I'm just making it up. And I'm making it up. I'm making it up with a degree of knowledge. I'm just like, I think it's that. I don't know. So what we do is we establish it. We then track it, which I'm sure you'll talk about in a minute. We track that together, depending on which hard and soft metrics. And the tracking, actually, to be frank, depends on... I'll talk about tracking in a second, right? So let's just say we track it, right? I am not arrogant enough or a liar to say I know what calories you're on. And more than that, I know what calories you should be on different days. And I know the differential between the two. I don't know that. And the answer is we probably might not never know like that. Unless I'm going to do glucose testing and stuff on you. I just think it's better just establish a system that's not weird and just repeat it. But yes, make system that is not weird and repeat it. And then obviously, but repeat it and track it, because if you're doing something if you're not tracking it, nothing's going to change, right?
Oh, tell me about the tracking.
So the tracking, I used to be super intense on the tracking. I used to be like, right, we need to be DEXA scan, we need to get you on the in-body, blah, blah, blah. Right.
You were doing the thing with the weight, the scale from Huawei or whatever.
Yeah, I was doing the thing with Huawei. Yeah. But right. So great, a good example, right? So I usually get my clients to step on. I get them to weigh themselves. No, sorry, I don't always, because is weight the metric they want to change? Most people it is, and it's quite a useful. For example.
However, this I will definitely get to this guy later, Peter Attia.
Yeah. Very successful.
Yeah, and very interesting insights.
It's amazing. He's so bright.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I find the whole thing a bit intimidating. He's incredible, and his client roster is insane.
He said the first thing we need to establish is that people don't want to lose weight. People want to lose fat.
True.
And that's very important to understand.
It's hugely important. Yeah, absolutely. And I have constant fights about this. So I am firmly of the school that the best diet you're going to be on, say if you are let's just say we're talking about people losing, right? So I'm not talking about guys who want to get stronger. I'm talking about people losing, right? The best diet is the one that's on the highest amount of calories you can have possible. The idea being that if you can then lose on the highest amount of energy coming in, I think of it as like a future prison that I'm either building or not building. Like it's quite easy for any nutritionist, to be honest, to say like, get on a mission, cut your calories to 1,600 or whatever, or 1,200 or 1,000. You've just built yourself a future prison. So either it fails and you screw up, but imagine if you nail it. Imagine, for example, I look at you now and I go, right, I would stick, and again, you'd have to fill out all these details, but let's just say I'd be like, right, 2,300, I reckon, something like that, right? Why don't I put you on 1,300 instead? Just why not, for fun? You're not going to do it because you're going to screw it up. But let's just say you do it. Great. Welcome to future prison. Exactly. You're screwed because it's the only, and that's actually back to our subway point of future prison. The prison is, you're going to have fast food every day, which is terrible for you and bad for your wallet, to be frank. Like, it's expensive. So don't want to do that. Always protect yourself from the future prison.
Very good. So, back to tracking.
All right. So in terms of tracking, I think the reason that Design for Life Fitness has grown the way it has, and I've had the opportunities I've had, is because I run the business not like a business, to be frank. And by that I mean that I and the team invest almost slightly too much time, in a sense, or not too much, the necessary amount of time. In order to actually affect proper change, you have to build a proper relationship and you have to have contact. I believe that. I truly believe that. So with everyone I work with, I want data from them every single day, every day. And then I also want to at least be talking to them once a week. The idea being that if I can get data, can you remember what you had for lunch 2 days ago?
No.
No, I can't remember what I did like 15 seconds ago. I couldn't even remember that question. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, so I have a question. How do you track these people if you speak to them on a daily basis? Do you have an app where you?
So yeah, I actually run it through our website. I run all our tracking through our website. So each client or each person who works with me, they just get their own private link to their own page, and literally it's great. It's just a form where it links out to a Google Doc. And all I'm doing is going, right, and then we choose the metrics together. At the beginning, whenever I present a plan, I go, here's the plan, but first off, there's a link at the beginning. It's like, click on that. Great. This is what my initial set of questions is, which essentially is, I asked them to fill it out in the evening, by the way, as well. So essentially, were your combos and snacks and drinks on plan today? And it's just drop down because people are busy. Yes, no. It's complicated, Chris. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why if I want to. That's what it is. Yes, no, it's complicated. That's it, sort of thing. Great, nice one. If we're using weight as a metric, there'll also be, what was your weight this morning? By the way, there'll be a thing that says, if we are tracking that, great, nice one. There'll generally be one question about their training as well, just to find out what they're doing. Just to, literally, because people say, I train 4 times a week, and they don't. Or they overtrain. You just don't know. It's a lot easier to find these insights out about people actually after you start working with them. Because they go, I went for a run today, click. And then you, over time, go, you train 9 times a week. That's quite a lot, sort of thing,
This is what you call the data collection.
Yes. Well, yes.
What other data are you getting from them on a daily basis? Are you getting what they actually ate if they followed the plan?
It depends on who they are.
Okay.
Right. So it depends because it depends on the lifestyle, right? I bet you have no, I'm just pointing at you I've got because I know you've got an office, because I know you have a job. Mm-hmm. If you've come back, if you're a 25-year-old athlete, I want to know every single thing you've done. I want to know how you've trained. I want your training program in the log. I want all of your numbers, and we'll track them over time.
That's your job.
Yeah, and I'll track everything over time, and everything's graphed up. We're looking to see patterns. If you're a 32-year-old guy that's in a middle management position, maybe you don't have time to do that. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's going to screw you up, because my end goal is just to get you to follow the routine and not feel trapped. For some people, feeling trapped is being asked what they ate all day long. For other people, it feels like a dereliction of duty if I don't ask, if that makes sense. It's like, well, why wouldn't you ask? Because that's your job, sort of thing. But what's important is that the metrics of tracking. So let's just say, obviously, what you ate is a great one. But then it all depends on who they are and what they've. Everyone usually comes with a problem, right? So it might be like, I always have to take an afternoon nap. I get that quite a lot, quite a common one.
I'm one of those.
Yeah, right. So I have to take
10 minutes nap, not more than that.
Right. So you have to take one, right? And so some people think
restart I'm rebooting my system basically.
Right. But if you're at work, it's really hard. Obviously, if you're working at home, sort of thing. So some people 2 days back in the office, you're screwed.
I actually was one of the people who approached the management, telling them we need to have a sleeping booth.
Interesting. Right. Yeah. Okay.
Because it's
how did that go?
Well, because we're an international company, etc., it didn't work well. However, it was an idea that was welcomed. Mm-hmm. Because I have an educated management. It's not like, oh, no, we're not, we're welcoming this, but, it wasn't possible to be done. However, they understood how important the nap is. I'm sorry.
No, but it's really important.
I have one friend who was going to take the nap to the parking lot every lunch.
I would do the same if I had the chance.
And your AC, but then you have to keep the car running the whole time.
Yeah, but for 10-15 minutes, that's not a big deal.
Amazing. Good lad.
Yeah, you just find your way.
Yeah, you just make it happen. But that's interesting because it was so important that your need to have a nap in the afternoon was so important to you that you went out on a limb and spoke to management about it, right? So it's important to you. Like if you were denied it, you'd probably be worse, presumably. So I hear a lot from people who have kids, for example, who the time they would spend with their kids should be that sort of afternoon period, but they're so zonked from work, they either have to have 4 espressos, or they sleep through, miss that time. The kids then go outside or whatever, then they have to get back on a call, etc., etc. So, for example, in that instance, I'd be tracking if they're a caffeine addict, when did they need to sleep today? It's usually yes or no, to be frank. It's like, did you need to go for a nap today? Great. And then it might be what time, or it might be, it might not be every meal, but it might be, what did you eat prior to that meal, for example? Because that could be a huge reason why they need to nap. It might be the case that they just go on the sugar ride down, right? Fine. Absolutely. And those little insights are great. But obviously, so for you, I might be all over that. That might be your question. For you, we never talk about it. So irrelevant.
Since you mentioned napping, do you also look for their sleeping habits?
Yes.
Or you care about it?
I care about them to the degree that, I care about them because sleep is obviously the bedrock of everything. And whether it's behavioral or also physiological, we're better at dealing with nutrients when we're not knackered. I know that as a father of a 19-month-old. So yeah, I do that. But at the same time, if I'm going to build a relationship with someone, I need to have a good read on what they need out of me as a coach, if that makes sense. Some people, they need me to be either tracking their sleep or all up in their Whoop data, for example. Yeah, great. Or add me on Apple bloody Watch or whatever, whatever it takes. Other people are like, that's massive overreach and that's not what I need. And also sometimes, actually no, all the time, I can tell pretty quickly if that's an issue. So for most people, they can get a really nice result just by changing something that isn't quite as fundamental. Mm. And by the way, they do a lot better if they could, but sleep I always push against the open door. So if you're the guy that has two takeaways a day, but you also sleep at 2 a.m., I'm going after the takeaways. Takeaways are easier. It's easier to go have half. Right, did it? If, of course, he starts doing that, and then we hit. It's all about. I always see it as you've got a load of potential levers to pull ahead of you. Don't pull any of them. Don't pull any of them until you absolutely have to. In a film when it's the battle. I always see it in Lord of the Rings. The army's coming and the archer's going. And he goes, wait,
yes.
wait. Fire!
Choose the right moment.
Right, exactly. And by the way, right moment basically means when everything grinds to a halt. And then it's not magic. Then it's you sit down with your client, you look back through all the data together
as a presentation,
and go, and as a team, and go right. Well, I've noticed that this, and this. We've talked about this the last 3 weeks, but we haven't done anything because you were losing, for example, or whatever. Now, do you think now's the time we're going to try that? Why don't we try and replace your oatmeal with eggs? For example, that's a classic one. So you don't get Like, let's make sure, because on my combo plans, depending on who they are, an elegant combo plan only has one type of combo. Like, for example, it could have zone macros, and everything's that. But in order to make Rice Krispies, for example, a high combo meal, a high protein meal, you've got to ruin Rice Krispies are not a high protein meal. They're a naughty little carb fest, right? But that's fine too. So those people might have two types of combos, like a sort of like, you've got your regular combo and you've also got your other one that's kind of, lower protein. So quite a lot of the time it's about going, hey, you know that lower protein combo that you really like? Can you switch it to any high carb combo? I don't care which one it is. So whatever you can make happen. And they're like, by that point, they're like, all right, let's see how that goes. And at that point, it's like, look.
So you create multiple combos for these people.
It depends. I'll create whatever it takes to work. I'm the most pragmatic man in the world.
So one person can get what you just said, a high carb combo.
For example.
Which is, let's say, making this up, 70% of the carbs, 15.
Perfect.
Protein, fat, yeah.
Yeah, great.
High carb combo.
Yeah, pancakes.
Yeah, with whipped cream.
Whatever
it is. And then at the same time, they have low carb combo, which you use at a different occasion in a different situation.
Yeah, potentially, if that's
but
how
they have it in a textbook if they need it.
Yeah, exactly that. Because the lazy school of nutrition coaching, and the reason why it's such I was going to say a dark art, but it's not. The reason why it's so maligned as an industry, like if I tell someone I'm a nutritionist, they're like, you're a liar. You're a professional liar. That's basically, because most people are liars. Most of us are.
You know who's
lazy.
You know who's Pavel Tsatsouline?
No.
Okay, so it's I want to say old because I really don't know how old he is, but he's way older than we are, let's say. And he's the guy who brought the kettlebells to the West.
Cool.
He has Power Strong First was his company. I don't know if he's still in charge of that, but that was it was a fitness certificate that you actually had to pass insanely hard kettlebell workouts to get it.
Cool. I would fail that.
There's not many of them. I think it was crazy. You had to do like 100 snatches with 32 kilo. Oh, wow. For your body weight, it would be like 32 kilo kettlebell within 10 minutes.
Oh, brutal.
Yeah, something like brutal. Him talking about nutrition, he will have like two main intakes. Vegetable is an unnecessary evil.
Oh, really?
Sorry, necessary evil.
Necessary evil.
You need to have it.
Well, I thought unnecessary.
It's necessary evil. And the second take will be that he's sorry for all nutritionists because training, there is some science into it, and nutrition for him is a witchcraft. Yeah. And this is how people see it. So.
I always, well, they do see it because that's honestly the case. Because when Design for Life Fitness was just going to be Ellen and my wife and I running a community group. Essentially, that's what it was. And it still is. We run like a running group and we do like Tough Mudders and all that sort of stuff. That was kind of it. I just realized, probably because of my career, my prior experience, I was like, oh, this area here. It wasn't even, it was just like, everyone is getting underserved in this area because no one's all over the numbers. Like, and I mean, your client numbers. No one's all over everything about the client, and no one follows up, and no one really pays enough attention. So the reason I'm telling you that, by the way, is because around low protein combos and high carb or whatever, could be any of them. There's loads of them. There's loads of different variations. A lazy nutritionist would go, for example, so you tell me that you always have rice. I'm using Rice Krispies as the example. Kellogg's, you know what Rice Krispies are, right? Mm-hmm. Right, yeah, fine, great. Or cornflakes. Yeah, I always have that in the morning. Great, nice one. Lazy combo plan is great. When you have that combo, I'm going to tell you I'm going to make it 500 calories. And you have to, because you're...
I'm supposed to have them.
So so I'll tell you, I'll tell you all that. So I'll say, sorry.
It's a mind game.
Sorry.
It's a trap.
Yeah, I'll be brutal. So I'll tell you all of the actual amounts. I'll say, you do this, do that, whatever. Mm-hmm. But let's just say that if I'm being, that's funny actually, because the really lazy nutritionists just say that. That's people just literally just go, yeah, just have some Rice Krispies, it's going to be good. People literally are that bad. But I would say, if I was being lazy, I'd then go, great, all of your combos are the zone diet. They've got protein in them. Rice Krispies in the morning, 500 calories comes from Rice Krispies, and you have to have an optimum nutrition protein scoop at the end of it, because that's going to balance out your 600. Mm-hmm. I know full well. So, for example, right now, I'm not taking any supplements, right? So I'm not taking any supplements, right? So I'm like, that's a terrible thing to tell someone to do because they're not going to do it. Or why don't you have 8 egg whites after your Rice Krispies? And you're like, the reason I'm having Rice Krispies is because I'm already doing my emails. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. So my job is to go, hold on a minute. If this guy really likes Rice Krispies and that's what he's doing, well, what happens if he does have Rice Krispies? What does he need to have in the other parts of the day that he doesn't have to think about? But I can go, look, by the way, your Rice Krispies, they're your low protein combo. Then all you need to do is just, your other meals, just have them from the normal selection and it will balance. And by the way, on a weekend, when you don't have Rice Krispies, you've probably already done one of those. So then you can have a pancake if you really want, if you want, sort of thing. And that attention to detail means that people find it very hard to screw up, because actually it's like, well, it's kind of already what I already do. But the reason that people fail all this stuff is because that level of like maths and mental gymnastics is just too much. So all you need to know is you can have Rice Krispies in the morning, and I've done all the work. Great. And
Chris, you're saying a lot about all the data you need to collect, like how you really want to be on numbers.
Yes.
And so, but at the same time, it kind of seems to me that it's not much about the numbers per se. It's about really knowing the client, mentally, habits. So it's the data, but it's more like that
the soft data.
Emotional soft connection data more than the raw numbers.
In this case, the data is actually a supportive factor to build a relationship with the client.
Yeah, so I think so the data, I think actually, if I'm being really brutally honest, the data I use, it's more around the plan. So I for example, I'll balance your Rice Krispies like perfectly. I will not perfectly, but I will make sure that everything fits, everything locks in a knowing that there's percentage, knowing all of that will be absolutely like bang on the money. When it comes down to tracking, I know that if me and you you look great, by the way. So, but let's just say you've decided to lose 2 kilos. I don't know why, but I know that you would do better. I don't know. I think, that you would do better if we didn't track anything and we just became best friends and we just chatted all day.
Because the approach is, it's not a consultant, it's not a salesman, it's not a doctor, it's not a nutrition, it's someone who cares about you.
Yeah, it is
a friend, is a person that cares about you.
Yeah, and by the way, that's immensely unscalable, just to be real. Like, so in terms of like actual like longevity or growth of the business, because then it's based around those relationships. That said, the actual combo plan and the way they're built and the structure around the structure of that, because that actually is very, very systematic actually. So I always think of it like this. So like every diet or every plan, let's just call them a diet, it's easier, has a gimmick essentially. So the ketogenic diet has a gimmick. It might work, but it also has a gimmick. The gimmick is high fat, whatever, that's it.
I was on a keto for
2 years. Yeah, you were on, and then you did carb.
Pretty strictly.
You look, by the way, you look great. I had a nightmare on keto, but you look great,
Oh, that was way back. I kind of dropped the keto because I wanted to...
Donuts?
Sorry?
Donuts?
You wanted those donuts?
I wanted to fuel workouts better, so I started to do carb loading around the training.
I remember you doing carb loading. By the way, at that point, you looked ridiculous at that point.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you absolutely did.
Yeah,
but
I was also
head coach.
I was also roughly 15 kilos less than now. So.
Yeah, and you were the head coach of a CrossFit gym. Like you were a prestige athlete. You've got really high levels of qualifications. You know what you're doing. My Auntie Janine ain't doing that. That ain't happening for Auntie Janine. Anyway, sorry, but so every diet has essentially a gimmick, like whether it works or not. Intermittent fasting. Time restricted eat, don't eat then, or whatever, right?
When we're talking about the keto, I would like to go back to the Dr. Peter.
Yeah, okay.
You know his work.
Yeah, well, I know a bit about it, yeah.
Okay, so I know about him and about his work as well. He's not actually a nutritionist. He's not specialized in nutrition.
He's a GP, isn't he?
He's a Canadian doctor.
Yeah.
And his research and his work is mainly on longevity, which comes with nutrition as well, of course.
Especially with keto.
Pardon?
Especially with keto, as they say, right?
Yeah, so that's what he's trying to... That's his message he's trying to get through. That the low carb, keto, whatever we call it, when you go lower on the carbs, with the intention of increasing insulin sensitivity, so the way how the sugar gets into the... It's not about because carbs are evil.
No.
It's because some people, that's what he has proven, seen, and described so many times. Sometimes people who are overweight, or we can say just plainly fat, they don't necessarily eat more than us. They don't necessarily overeat. Mm-hmm. But their metabolism is already so fucked up that it's not behaving as ours is. So the food that you can take, even it would be maybe in some circles considered cheat meal, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's
not, let's say, not ideal meal for health. If you will take it, you're okay. Because your metabolism is
fast, bangs.
It's right on spot. It's working very well, and body can cope with it. In their case, it's too far behind the limit, and he's using, or he's recommending, and whatever he's doing with it, keto or low carb diet, just for the pure purpose of balancing the hormonal levels, and basically making the system to restart because that works. He had the guy, no kidding, I think it was over 300 or 400, I think it was way over a year of only water fast. Because the guy was so overweight that he still was able to tap into his fat stores for over a year not eating.
That's amazing. It's amazing. But it also is believable at the same time.
And an amazing dedication from the client to actually accept the fact that he can't eat anymore.
Well, I think that guy was so far behind the line that he would do anything what could help him. Yeah,
that's really interesting, actually. And actually, that does speak to one thing that also nutritionists are very bad at, which is knowing where their limits are and knowing where your limits of knowledge are as well. So I am essentially like a secretary, a nutrition secretary, coach, whatever it is, best friend, whatever, a man with a plan.
Sorry to interrupt you. You have some education in nutrition, though.
Yeah. So as well as the sort of generic sort of like courses and things you do through work and stuff. So when I got into it, when I got into my career, I didn't have any specialization in nutrition, and then found myself professionally working for food companies for whatever 10 years or whatever. So you have a fair degree of qualifications that way. And then I felt really outmatched, so I started on my masters. So you have
a master's in nutrition.
And
he calls himself unqualified.
No, but there's a sort of but it's the case that no matter what you no matter the qualification that someone has, it's all about how you practically apply it, I suppose. And that's a kind of a good point there with people like reaching the end of the road with you. Like if I, for example, I'm very good at like saying to some, well, it doesn't often happen, but like you should be able to kind of eat what you want essentially, right? But of course there are people, whether it's thyroid issues or whatever else, who have massively imbalanced hormones. I don't have the required time or skill or experience to deal with that. I don't. So I'm happy to refer out if that's the case. So I've had two.
I respect that. I respect that, the fact that you actually said this.
100%. I don't know. My job is to help people and not hurt people, right? So if imagine being the guy that tells a guy not to eat for a year. I'm sorry. I won't be able to sleep. I'd be terrified. Yeah. I don't have that. That's why like Peter Attia is like, really well known.
I think you think it that way because the fundamental idea of you starting the business was building a community, was your friends, the surrounding.
Absolutely.
And now your community or your circle of the community is growing bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, exactly.
And that means your friends are becoming better and better and better.
Correct. Yeah.
So your approach is still there, that I want my community and my friends and my surrounding is to be healthy in a good way, not by killing them or, saying killing as just a refer of not eating.
Yeah, or
telling me not to eat. You're killing me, basically. So yeah.
Yeah, or doing things to them that just because of my own sheer ego. They're like, I know I can do this. It's like, well, no, you can't do that. Like, I always think like Paolo's a specialist. Like, for example, like in biomechanics, I think you are. Yeah, exactly. But I know we all see personal trainers just do ridiculous things with people. Like, it happens all the time. And I would just have so much more respect for the personal trainer who says, I'm staying in my lane. This is what I'm happy, good at this. You need to go and see a chiropractor or a physio. You need just refer it out. Just that I think there's a lot of like, it's an ego thing and also an economic insecurity thing going, I just need, if I give away my client, they'll never come back. They will come back because they'll trust you.
At the same time, I find sometimes, but that's a different aspect of it. Of course, if there's a health or even not necessarily health per se, just the well-being on the line, of course, you refer, you send them wherever they need to go. But I really, really don't like when coaches do not educate themselves and they don't try to understand. I'm not saying you're supposed to do the surgery, but you're supposed to know how it works.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You're supposed to know what's going on. I experienced it when one coach who was referring to me at that time came and was like, oh, they were asking me why their shoulder hurts. What am I, a physio? I was like, well, no, you're not. But you see the movement, you see how they move.
You should have,
and you should have some idea. I'm not saying diagnose them on the spot. That's wrong. Mm-hmm. Because even doctors are not going to diagnose you on the spot. But you definitely can or should see patterns. You should see and have an over time built experience. But that experience is not going to be built if you will be avoiding people like that. And so,
100% I agree. It's like, don't you have any theories? Like, it's incredible, isn't it, that someone would work in that field and see something like someone's moving terribly and not even have an idea?
Yeah.
Not even come to you with I don't know, but I think maybe...
I'm not physio.
Yeah, that's it. I'm done, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, for example, in the case of the 300-pound man or whatever it was, with Dr. Peter Attia, say if he was... Well, he wouldn't work with me because that guy wouldn't train. So, that guy... Because, by the way, like, the great thing about someone having a sort of barrier to entry, which is generally people will train, is that if you're capable of training in any regard, really, your biomarkers will be better than people who don't. So what actually happens is I tend to work with people who are quite healthy because people who train habitually tend to be more healthy.
And also generally people who are seeking your help, your expertise, they already want to do the change. They want to implement something. You're not, like that's what I always liked about coaching. That, not like Alan, right? I'm not a teacher where the kids are forced to be there. Yeah. My clients are not forced to be here.
Yeah.
My clients come because they want.
Precisely, yeah. And every time, like a bit like my monthly thing, every time they leave here and they can decide if they want to come back.
Yeah.
It's on them. If they want to do it, they see value, then great. And if they don't, and if they smell bullshit, they're out, sorry, you think that, but quite a lot of the time, that's actually not true, is it? It's quite easy sometimes, because people believe you, because you're in a position of power. Mm-hmm. That's the thing, like, you've got me on this podcast.
You're the authority.
Yeah, like, you're the authority, and people believe, I can't remember who said it, but like, or even the phrase, but it's like, people believe what's in front of them, what they see. So if there could be lots of other contradictory things going on, but if I look you in the eye and I say, for example, carbs are not good for you, with my position of authority, it's really powerful, actually, and terrifying at the same time.
Well, with the power comes responsibility, right?
Well, yeah, it does,
But you also reminded me one very good observation that we, as a certain group of coaches, made and came into conclusion. And that also actually applies on relationships. Whatever the relationship is, people don't tend and don't necessarily follow somebody who is right. People follow somebody who is sure. And that's where the danger is. Because usually the people who are not really right tend to be very, very sure about what they're saying.
Sure, yeah.
And people who really know their field tend to be very reserved in certain
aspects.
Very strict statements, let's say.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to say something. Like I don't know who said it. The more I know, the less I know. Yeah. The more I know.
There's that curve, isn't there? Like, when you think you know something, and then you're like, oh no, I know nothing.
You just see how much. The only thing you learned is how much you don't know. Yeah.
I always have you guys ever done an escape room with people?
Yes,
I actually did one yesterday.
Right. So escape rooms are great, especially if you don't quite know, especially if it's a work thing. And like, you don't quite know everyone that well. Because the people who don't know what they're talking about are so loud. And you're like trying to think, or whoever's like, no, that's not happening. So most people's escape room problems come because you listen to the alpha male or whatever in the room.
True, the person that knows a lot actually is very conservative in whatever he says.
Absolutely.
Very, very smart in whatever they deliver as a message, because they don't want to sound like, oh, I know a lot and I'm giving you that much. No, this is how much I know, and this is how much you need to know. I'll give you this. This is it.
Absolutely, 100%. It's so true.
You just made me think about the gentleman that fixes my car, and I once asked him something, and he was very brief in what he said. His answer, I'm just literally thinking about it, and his answer was very, very short, but it was more than enough for me, because the way he said it, what he said was more than enough, and he fixed me. He fixed basically the car. When basically comes back to you fixed me.
Absolutely,
you're telling me the right thing that works for me.
And you trust the fact that he would. You trust the fact that he would go, if it was not fixable, he would tell you or tell you where to go. You trust that. Yes. The terrifying thing in this industry is, I think, in the industry that I'm in, or we're all in really, or me and you are, is that there are a lot of people out there who haven't had the career prior and haven't got maybe the confidence of that, and to go like, well, I don't need to lie. I'm going to call it what it is. It is lying, by the way. It's not just like extending the truth. When it's with people's health, it is just being disingenuous, I suppose. And quite a lot, it's very rare, but in fact, I've never met anyone who's come to me to work on their nutrition who hasn't worked with someone else or tried something else that was BS. Everyone's tried something because everyone gets to you for a reason.
Cleaning after everybody.
Yeah, well, that's what it is, right? Everyone usually comes to you and goes, oh, I've tried this and blah, blah, blah. Or I had this guy from Lebanon, blah, blah, blah. That thing.
Are you having a lot of interactions with other, I don't want to call it nutritionists, but are you having interactions with other nutritionist people who are into this?
Yeah, so I did at the start, and then I kind of went into my own little box for a while. And I suppose, honestly, I would say that I would also class quite a lot of the coaches I work with, because part of doing any sort of like level of like personal training or whatever else, you have to have some degree of, even if it's just calories and macros, you have to have some degree of it. But funnily enough, recently, I think as my client base have become more professional, so like the people I'm working with are higher level, I've actually sought out people with higher qualifications than me to sense check my work. So for example, I'll tell you, like this week, for example, I've got a dietitian who I know who works in the NHS in the UK.
NHS is?
So National Health Service of the UK. So his job is actually to treat people with IBS. Actually, I have him poring over my combo plan, not everyone's plans, but poring over the combo plan, because I'm looking for gaps. I'm looking for gaps, and I'm looking for reassurance because I'm a dad, right? And I'm not going to now spend 4 years at university again, doing 2 years in clinical practice, and it doesn't interest me either. But at the same time, I think you have to be humble enough to go, I've got blind spots. We all have blind spots. And also there's also no real right way, what's that book I just read by, do you know Tim Spector? So Tim Spector's...
I know Harvey Spector.
No, Harvey Spector's great, yeah. So Tim Spector's a really interesting guy. So he's the chief, what is he? He's at University College London, and he's a professor there. And he is a food scientist, but also he's a general scientist. And what's really interesting is that he's like really, really high profile in the UK, and to the point where he's got this, they're tracking, they're doing a massive study of twins at the minute. He's invested in a company called Zoe, which basically has done loads of mapping of twins to see essentially how well, because we say like an apple's got 100 calories in it. Let's say that you have two identical apples or whatever, but two people in different stress states will absorb. It's just because you put it in your mouth doesn't mean the calories or the nutrition goes into you. It goes through you, sort of thing. So his whole thesis is that calories are completely BS, like completely all based on you, your profile, your gut microbiome, etc., etc. Funnily enough, his work has had to stop because he leads the UK response on COVID. Because funnily enough, because all of these studies are all based on the same thing.
You gave me a great pass actually for the following, not necessarily question, just topic I want to open. I don't know whose work this was, but there is maybe last 10, 15 years, a lot of research and push towards understanding the gut flora.
Yes.
And the gut flora connection to brain.
Yeah, the third, what is it called? The third organ? What's it called?
Third brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have the brain.
And it's true.
Then you have heart brain.
I felt it today when I was started doing this. Like this feeling of like, you can feel your nerves there. Like,
yeah. Well, you know that actually in your gut, there is more neural connections than in your spinal cord.
It's just incredible, right?
Crazy.
And they really figured it out like 5 years ago.
Yeah. And what they are going after is that not only protein and carbs have a different environment for digestion in the stomach, different levels of acidity,
in the intestines,
but they have definitely different impact on the gut flora, which has a signal power over your brain.
Which it does.
Which basically has opposite balance, where carbs are more towards action and fuel, and proteins are towards rest and recovery.
Yeah.
Where I started with this through StrongFit and Julian Pinot, and I think maybe 2.5 years now, I don't eat protein and carbs at the same time, and I have a majority of my protein only at night.
Yeah,
because that makes sense based on this theory. Carbs for fuel, protein for recovery, fats to, let's say, fill in. Yeah. What's your take on this?
My take on it is that I think over the next, I don't think, it's obvious, over the next X amount of years, all of the things that we're discussing now, not all of them, but for example, calories, macros and stuff, will seem outdated. And these one-size-fits-all approaches, even, to be honest, even the case that like I'll know you intensely, there'll be the sort of individualized nutrition plan, the level that will have to be will be far, far greater than what we can do now. And it's just a matter of, but by the way, as a nutritionist, it's really, really exciting actually. You have to approach it in that way. It makes, in terms of the way that, for example, you're eating now, by the way, it makes complete sense to me. Because essentially, like
it makes sense to me, right? I've seen the papers, I've seen the research, I tried it, and like have a steak and go work out. It's like that's not going to happen. You just want to rest and digest.
100%, exactly. Then but have those pancakes or whatever, you know, exactly. Oh no, it makes 100% sense to me. And then this is why I actually love my combo plans, right? Because I'm pretty agnostic about what the food really is, as long as I know the data's accurate. For most people, obviously, you run a podcast about fitness, right? And broadly, right? You are the 0.0001% of people. Your interest is so much greater than virtually everyone else, sort of thing. And therefore, and also you have control of your time. Therefore, you can do that. Because you now get where I come from. It's like, right, well, I'll read the books or I'll read the papers, and then my job is to figure out, okay, well, how is this actually applied in real life? Because like, even if you get an amazingly it's not mine, like a personalized nutrition plan that says you need to do this, and this, it's only practical if someone spoon feeds you with exactly how to do it at the beginning, because you've got a job, a kid, a mortgage, rent, no one has the time. I always say to people, if they say like, how did you come up with all this? I said, listen, if you just quit your job and did nothing for a year, with a bit of background, you could write the best nutrition plan. You could come up with something amazing. You just get yourself a computer and just had like, sit on the beach with a bit of Wi-Fi. You could write yourself the best thing, as long as you had some element of self-realization and you weren't deceiving yourself. But you're not going to do it, are you? You don't have any time. You're a great example. You have literally no time to do that. So essentially, it's an outsource. But isn't that the case for many things in the world, really? Like, I could learn how to paint my own house. I'm not going to do that because I'm running a company and trying to be a dad. It's the same with everything, really.
Yeah.
I made the mistake of making my own wedding ring. It's crap.
What? Did she notice that?
Yeah, she made hers. It's bad. So I don't even wear mine. What's the point?
It's a gesture. Chris,
so
going back to your example with the identical twins.
Yeah.
I happen to have a twin.
Yes, you do. I met him. We were throwing things over a bar.
Yeah.
He's strong.
He is.
Yeah, stronger than me anyway. It's strong.
So stronger than you mean strong?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
When you said that example, you said it really matters if, let's say, there are two of us.
Yeah.
Me and him.
Yeah.
We are identical twins. Let's say we really, really had extremely similar upbringing.
Yeah.
To a point where basically everything we did was the same.
Yeah.
And one is eating food angry because of whatever circumstances of the day, and one is eating the exact same food completely chilled out.
Absolutely.
Rate of ingestion doesn't mean the rate of digestion.
100%.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
That's also the now opposite way, the nervous system actually influencing the gut, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And I happen to have max 85 grams of protein over maybe year and a half. And in that year and a half, for my body weight,
which is seen as being low.
Exactly.
So just to be clear, that's low.
Yeah, I went from maybe 76 to 90 kilos.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it was pure muscles.
Yeah, but
it wasn't.
Yeah, but it's pretty good. I was looking at it, it's good.
Thank you. How do you approach this with the amounts of protein for people? Because I know what works for me, and I know that the bodybuilding 2.5 to 3 grams for your body weight, that's just too unnecessarily high.
Yeah, it's so high. I think it is really interesting, isn't it, with the minimum amount of protein? Because it's quite a common question, isn't it? Like, how much protein do I need? Every bloke says that. Every bloke has that.
You know what's the minimum for like maintenance for a person? It's 0.6.
Yeah.
Maybe 0.7. That's like maintenance where you will survive.
It's to stop wastage, isn't
you will
it?
still
Atrophy.
Recover whatever you have. You might not build many more mass, but so why 3?
But by the way, also, like even that, like to the identical twins, to the whole like Tim Spector, like gut microbiome, proper personalized nutrition, even that, like say 0.7, like that's basic. The only people who ever do protein studies are protein companies. And governments trying to work out what's the minimum level that they can give to the population, whether they need to plant more grain. That's kind of how that works. Neither of whom are interested in unbiased optimization of health. Governments are just about keeping people alive. But it's interesting that whole 0.6 or 0.7. That, by the way, that's just to be clear. That is, say if you're 100 kilos. They're saying that, say that's you got a unit of 100, great. So that's, you take your body weight and times it by 0.6, for example, which would come out at 60. So that's you need 60 grams of pure protein. By the way, that doesn't mean 60 grams of chicken, because chicken's full of loads of other things as well. So it ends up being a bit more than that. That would be maybe
300 grams of chicken.
Yeah, something like that, right. So there's our mass. It goes, but that's born out of a population study probably done in 1964 in some random place with people with genetics that are different to you, environments that are different to you, It's crazy. All of these assumptions and figures are all based on data that just isn't worth the paper it's written on. It's just not enough. And I think over the next few years, I'd hope over the next few years, actually, because to be frank, like the money that goes into unbiased food studies is nothing. who's paying for it? Why? What's the point? You know what I mean? But I would love to see an individualized study about how much protein do people actually need, like really need, to both survive and thrive.
Yeah, like if I can have 400 grams of protein, not chicken, protein.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to be extremely stressed, cortisol is through the roof.
Yeah, it's not going to help.
It's not going to do nothing. It's going to do nothing for my recovery.
And how expensive as well here. Like it would destroy you.
You said expensive in regard of money.
We all both actually.
I've seen one study which was super interesting, where it was basically a calculation of a theoretic physicist.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, this into regard. It was a calculation. You have life, and then you have entropy. That's like anti-life. Yeah, basically losing the heat.
Yep.
Yeah. We know that eating protein is the most, or digesting protein is the most taxing thing.
Yeah, so
you lose 20-25% of the protein taken, you will lose just for processing that.
Which is why people love it. Thermic effect.
Yeah, and for fat it was like 3%.
Yeah, it's like there's nothing.
Yeah, it's super minimal. And basically they did the calculation of average American diet, average American body weight, all averages.
Yeah.
And they did multiple mathematical models where they taken into consideration what would happen if people have restricted calorie diet.
Okay, yeah.
How that would mathematically and by thermodynamic laws influence their lifespan.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Because you can basically calculate that you losing the heat is you dying slowly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. When we very simplified.
Yeah.
So you losing the heat by digesting a lot of protein.
That's interesting.
Is shortening your lifespan based on this model.
That's very
and they came out with a conclusion where I think they did like 5 different models. The basic one, which was like where they were comparing towards the actual reality, let's say. And then they did high carb, high protein, restricted protein, and restricting calories.
Okay, I believe, yeah.
The one that added the most, which was 7 years for ladies and maybe 6-7 years for guys, was with the restricted protein.
So interesting. Yeah. It's very interesting.
But
by the way, I mean, I have to say, like, you know, cards on the table. I am. When you meet people, you can find out pretty quickly if they've got a protein bias, you know, like, or not, sort of thing. Like, you you meet those guys, especially guys who like really love meat or whatever. Like,
you look at their back, right?
Yeah. Or their bank account.
Skin is completely
gone, right? Yeah, exactly. So to be frank, I'm the other way. I'm like a carbaholic. You know, that's that. I actually grew up vegetarian, so my parents were vegetarian. So it wasn't like. Well, it wasn't super strict as in, but there was never really any meat in really my house, which probably accounts for a lot of this. Like, it's interesting. I wear that on my sleeve quite a lot because with protein, it's also about lifestyle. It's also about people's biases. Because I could say having a high protein diet will make you live. You know, according to one study, it might indicate that it might not help. But if you're that guy that has to have meat at every single meal, you ain't never going to listen to me. Ever. It's so interesting. Yeah. And that's always the intersection, isn't it, between like logic and emotion? We see it in politics, we see it everywhere, don't we, nowadays?
Look, people eat since they are born, right?
Yeah.
So they think they understand it.
Yeah, precisely.
And it's just super, super ingrained way of behaving, way of thinking.
Absolutely.
And I remember when in a gym before we had a little incident when one of the coaches did some not really nice vegan oriented post on Instagram.
I actually know the incident we're talking about.
Yeah. And one of our clients got so offended because his family were farmers. They are farmers. That's how they live. That's how they make their living.
Yeah.
And it was just clash of completely
cultural,
also, like these worlds will never. It's just
never
they will never merge. It was just insane collision, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't about necessarily their personal opinions, right? Because they were formed by the environment.
Yeah.
So
it's very interesting because everyone has humongous amounts of baggage when it comes to food. We all do because we're all experts in it, and we all know someone who's done really well or someone's not. I find that therefore the relationship piece is really, really important because when I talk to people about food, I basically I say, look, there are certain things that we know. There's other things that we don't know, like a lot of things that we don't know, and
probably more than we know.
Probably a lot more actually, and it's about admitting that sort of limitation. We're going, these are things that we do know, or these things that we've observed. So interestingly, I think for me, and this might be somewhere where me and you diverge, is around timing of food, right? So I don't care when my clients eat. I don't care.
That actually was where I was going with all this.
I don't care. You can eat at midnight. You can eat at 7 a.m.
Really?
It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, well,
because I'm all about the routine. I'm all about the system, which is 3 meals a day.
But for example, I'm coaching a guy who is now going through a pretty challenging transition to change his lifestyle. His lifestyle was that if he was calling you at 9 a.m., it wasn't because he was already woken up. He was still up. Yeah. And now he's trying to fix that. It's a fight. He's doing well. But
good on him.
Before, he actually needed to eat at midnight. He needed to eat late because that's how he was operating. I mean,
that was the fuel for him.
There was fuel for him because he was waking up at 4 or whatever. I don't know, maybe 12 or 1. Doesn't matter. But his system was completely changed, like a fucking vampire, right?
It's really hard. I also find that I found that if I'm going to be completely candid, because I started Design for Life after a year of basically, I had the best year of my life, by the way, doing nothing, like nothing, post corporate.
But it wasn't nothing, right?
No, I was working on this exactly, and I'm working on myself, working on my handstands. But the reason I'm kind of expressing that is because I got to a level in corporate, which is a good level, but it meant that it puts constraints on you that you can't do other things, if that makes sense. So what's really interesting about timing is that I'm telling you right now, I would love to be doing the way that you're doing it, like only having protein at night and all the, those things. I would love it. I just find that whether it's my baby or whether it's because I've got other things going on or whether it's just because it's lower down on my list, I just don't. This is how it is.
For me, I literally need to have a structure.
Yes.
But that's also my personality. This is how I work. I want to have training done by this time. I want to have this. I just need to have it outlined and follow because the emotional bank account theory.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing. Are you familiar with it? Mm. Yeah. So just quick explanation. Every decision is chipping off.
Every time.
And then who has a cheat meal in the morning?
Well, actually, a few people I work with, but yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, it's just you meet a lot of people doing this job, right? Yeah, of course. People are people. I've seen it all.
Yeah. But my point is, it's way likely to have a cheat meal in the evening because you are so exhausted with all the decisions you make through the day. Mm. And this is what I want to eliminate. I don't want to have these seemingly unimportant decisions to make. I just want to have a structure that I follow every time. What you were saying, that people have a hard time following the same exact food. I can eat the same thing, same
day
time,
in, day
all
out.
the time. Yeah. But I am very aware that it's not really common.
Yeah. So by the way, a lot of people can eat the same thing all the time. It's just what happens is, for example, you have a long meeting and have to drive to a random place and it's more the external world puts a dampener on your boss says you've got to have a meeting with your boss.
That's a good point.
Happens a lot with I think with people trying to give up alcohol as well, because your whole social network is surrounded by alcohol. Or anything, smoking, any vice in that sense. But people don't think food like that.
I'm from Slovakia and I don't drink. So,
so you can make
it. I can tell you that.
That's fine. That's fine.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, but because you've managed to control the decisions of your personal life.
Yeah.
So you eat the same. You said you can.
Yeah, but
eat
the
same
social,
food.
but the social pressure. Oh, I was talking about alcohol.
Yeah, I know. So I'm talking about food. Then you manage to, if you're capable of accepting the fact that I can have the same meal every single day, you're capable of controlling your life.
Yes.
And the same thing came to alcohol. You
Absolutely.
controlled your life and decision that I don't want that in my life.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was just referring to the social pressure.
Yeah.
Because it's,
But it's interesting though.
I'm socially pressured that I don't drink alcohol.
I know.
I
Yeah.
never tried it in my life.
Yeah.
And every single occasion,
never ever?
never tried a sip of it. Never tried cigarettes. Never tried, and it's nothing related to anything more than.
That's
the
why
fact
you're
that-
winning all the competitions.
Hey!
Makes sense now.
Thank you. It's just because I never was ever convinced that it's something that's made by a human being is important for me. Food was made by nature. This is not nature. This is not natural.
Yeah.
It's something made by a human. So why should I consume something that's made by?
So do you also follow this regarding the avoiding processed food and only eating natural food?
If you came to me, I'm not the best person to talk about this. I'm not the healthiest person. Let's be honest. I'm having a meal plan because I wanted to eat better. That's it. I'm not because I know how to cook, but I don't know what to cook. That's good for me. Anyway, back to the point is, I get socially pressured every time there's an occasion. Why don't you drink? Why don't you have this? I'm like, it's my decision. I took it.
Yeah.
And I like it.
But the pressure comes.
The pressure comes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Sorry, I think we shifted out of this.
No, by the way, that's interesting. That there's a sort of, and I hope you take this in the right way. Like
Yes.
there's a level of inconsistency in what you said there, in the sense of like, alcohol's made by a human, but then again, so's, I don't know, chips or whatever else, like sort of thing. But everyone's riddled with inconsistencies because the whole world essentially is like what they call it. I mean, I'm presuming that you've definitely all have read *Sapiens*, like that. So the idea of like the cognitive dissonance, the ability to hold two contradictory thoughts and opinions, is seen as a weakness, but actually, that's the only way society actually operates. You have to all the time.
That's how society happens.
Yeah, exactly. You have to be able to have exactly these things. I mean, by the way, I found one of the reasons I actually moved here as well was because I thought it was going to help me quit drinking. By the way, so my family have got a pretty bad history with alcohol.
Did it?
Yes. So I haven't drunk since November 2017.
Oh, wow.
So boom, kind of. Yeah, so I haven't drunk at all. And it hasn't been a problem. However, I'd had periods of quitting prior to that, right? Like over the last 5, you don't see people die of alcoholism and well, you either go one way or the other. So I was like, I don't want to do this, and I have those sorts of things. But it's interesting because your environment makes a huge difference. So I found it virtually impossible to quit in London because London, the culture,
absolutely, the environment,
the weather, all of that.
You've heard of the Red Paradise experiment?
No, hit me up.
Okay, Red Paradise was a cage where they put rats. First, plain cage with nothing in it, and they gave them water, and they gave them water with cocaine. 95% addicted within a certain period of time. And then they built a Red Paradise.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I do know this.
Okay. Ropes, swings, whatever. Just a playground for rats. Yeah? Huge space. I think the space size was similar because for the bias of the experiment, but they just put shit ton of stuff in so rats can play. Only 5% got addicted on the cocaine water. It's the environment.
This is in Atomic Habits, right? It's
I think it was mentioned in Atomic Habits, but you can definitely find if you will Google.
It's US veterans, isn't it?
TED Talk.
Yeah,
there is a TED Talk about it, and there is example.
It's the veterans, the heroin.
Vietnam veterans
It's
heroin
amazing.
addiction. Yeah, there's happened same thing. They came back from the Vietnam. There was no stimulus from the environment. Only maybe 5% stayed addicted without any need for treatment. And look at what is happening when people going for these retreats. You have somebody who is addicted because they are hanging out with wrong people, air quotes, air quote wrong people. It's their neighborhood, let's say.
Yeah.
And then they get pulled out of there. They go to mountains where they do gardening and taking care of dogs or camels or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then you take them after they are supposedly clean and you throw them back to the exact same environment. What will happen?
The same thing will they will go back again.
Yeah, okay, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, let's be. I was born here, so my surrounding was not supporting anything when I grew up to tell me like you can consume this, you can do that.
Yeah.
And then my family, my dad was always into sports. I was into sports, so I grew up also with the people surrounding me. For a
shape
better,
you in that.
Yeah, exactly. So that river, let's say, or a stream, just kept going to that direction. And now I'm just in the flow of saying, you know what, I wanna have it as my life mission. I want to be
It's nice.
60 or 70, exactly 60 or 70, and say, you know what, I've managed to achieve one thing and not do it by not doing something.
By the way, when my wife and I were deciding what to call our company or what this idea was, we were going to call it On a Mission because it was a great name. You're on a mission.
Absolutely.
But missions always come to an end. that's the whole mission complete. So we're like, that's why I felt like you're life mission. Like,
Infinite mission.
Yeah, so it's like designed for life. Yeah, because actually it's not the mechanics of the combo plan, but in a sense that's kind of what happened. The environmental change thing. So I was working corporate, long hours, 80, 90 hours a week, like huge hours, and just destroying myself with food, alcohol, whatever else, and stress, like emails or whatever else. And then I completely changed my environment. Thank you, my wife, for helping me out with that. I learned to handstand, met him, those sorts of things. Great. And honestly, the combo plan and how it keeps on evolving. The combo plan is my attempt to, when I speak to people, that's why I've got a massive degree of empathy when I talk to you about your work. The combo plan is my sincere attempt to give you a plan that I believe you can follow within the environment that I've experienced. As in, if I was going to, from the outside, go like, help Chris 3 years ago, I'd say, Chris, you can eat whatever you want. Just know roughly what it is. Try and stay on track. Don't stress the timing. Because that's me kind of almost looking back at myself, sort of thing.
That's very cool. Like you had this like overview and at the same time super strong introspection that led you to it, right?
Yeah, well, that's actually what it is. But I never really thought about it in that way, but that's exactly what it is. And if I find something better, as in, or I notice a nuance, or I've overcomplicated something, I just take it out. I used to be really into timing of food, for example, and then I realized that most people can't control their diaries, and it's not because of their being weak. It's just because it's how the modern world is, unfortunately. And anyone that is controlling their diary, if I say I don't mind when you eat, I don't mind. But then they will eat on time, and then we'll lock it in. But I always start from a position of like, it's all good.
And have you seen on results of your clients that people who actually were able to take care of the timing,
yes,
maybe out of their own initiative,
yeah,
maybe not you giving it to them, that there were better results than people who were not able to do it, or you can't really draw this comparison?
The only thing I can say, I suppose, is that you can make progress, a ridiculous amount of progress, without any timing. It doesn't matter. Does not matter. But there is a degree. There comes a point for athletes or whatever else, or people trying to lose certain amounts of body fat, for example, or certain people who are trying to gain strength, to be frank, where you need to timing of food, timing of sleep, timing of carbohydrates. All of that becomes hugely important. And when you dial that in, it doesn't take long. 3 weeks, 4 weeks, the results are mental. From
my experience, I need to focus on the timing just for the sheer volume of food I need to eat.
Well, yeah. How many calories are you on?
I have no idea.
How many meals then is it? What are we talking?
4 meals a day.
And when we're talking meal, we're talking.
No, it's a bit. Like I can say it now. I don't recommend anybody to do it the way I do it.
Excellent.
Because I am still in a phase where I am testing this.
Okay.
Maybe 2-3 weeks where I did the last adjustments. Yeah. Because 2 or 3 weeks ago, I just started to not feel hungry at all. And for almost 5 days, I only had 1 meal a day and I was still feeling very full. And I was still feeling okay. But I lost weight. and I didn't like it, and the appetite came back.
Yep.
So now
How about your energy?
I was training twice a day, still good.
Okay.
I think it was just the...
But maybe your body didn't understand it.
As it's very hard for many people to lose weight, for me, that hard is to gain weight.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So for me, to pounding a volume of food and transforming that food into muscles through training and quality sleep, that's the priority, right?
And you have to have a routine for that.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I need the structure.
It's impossible.
So I have, first thing in the morning, I will have like half a liter of water.
You're not having Rice Krispies? How dare you?
No cereals. After maybe half an hour, I have coffee, and not necessary it can be a decaf. I don't really mind at that point, but I have it with a 300 milliliter of heavy cream.
Okay, great.
Just 300 milliliter of heavy cream, double espresso. So it
300 mils?
Yeah, that's a lot.
Sorry.
I know.
Hey, that's awesome.
That's how I need to do it.
So I was like, what?
Yeah. Then I usually
that's a can of Coke's worth, basically.
Then when I'm after I either train once or twice a day.
Right.
If I'm after the last training, whether it's the first one or the second one, I start to go into proteins as well.
Yep.
And do you know Liver King on Instagram? So I do 100 grams of raw liver every day now.
Do you?
Yeah.
How is that? Tasty?
I don't mind. Tima made some amazing marinara around it. So she will just like put it in it with some like peppers, salt, and it's fine. I mean, I don't mind it. Like the taste of it.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like it's not like I'm super enjoying it, but it's okay.
It's only 100 grams anyways. How much did you say?
Yeah, 100 grams. 100 grams.
Yeah, it's not a huge amount.
I would have that. Then I would have usually it's like sourdough with a cheese or something like that. What Tima will make.
Yep.
That's like afternoon. And liver is either before or after that. I don't have that. But it needs to happen between like 1 to 4, both of these.
Right.
And then I have big dinner with a lot of protein, no carbs, vegetable.
Sleep. Recover. Repeat.
Yeah.
Amazing. One thing
It works.
Well, that's the thing. I think one thing I think is really interesting about that and the observation and working with people. I'm not talking now about the pro athletes I work with, say, but like people who go to the gym and are like top near the top of the class sort of thing, like trying hard or whatever. There's always there's an expectation for quite a lot of people who actually do train that they're going to want to become you, like say become you, for example, right?
I'm flattered, but you gave me so many compliments already.
But they are, because they're like, like right now you're lean, you're toned, you've got good muscle tone, your skin looks good, all those things, like 100%, that's great.
Just to add one thing to it, I'm trying to spend at least 30 minutes on the sun every day.
Yeah, so you're getting the vitamin D's going up.
Yes.
Ice bath?
Trying weekly.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Shower always cold, no hot water.
Right.
We have heater off.
Oh wow.
So what that means is that your protocols are essentially that. Well, and I would expect nothing less. Your protocols are world class standard. As in, what I mean by that is you're doing things that the pros would do, and you're doing them at a 90 to 95%, probably higher level of compliance every day, right?
Yeah, the consistency is there.
Yeah, 100%. Right, it's amazing, right? It's incredible to me how even I am looking at you, even I'm sucked in now going, oh yeah, I could just do that. I'm telling you, newsflash, me and you can't do, I can't do that. I know I actually can't do that.
I know that I can maybe 50%.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I would say, from my limited but fairly wide experience of people, that it's better to it's better to try and do a lot less than that at 100% rather than trying to do any of that 50%.
I'm not pushing this on anybody.
No, but it's just interesting. But what's interesting is that people do. We all want to optimize, and we're all here, especially people who want to optimize their training. They're like, right, okay, I'm going to do. And by the way, you'll get amazing results. The problem is, do you want to quit your job? Do you want to have? Do you want kids? That ain't happening.
And usually, when people have such a strong routine, they didn't get there from day to day.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, they build it over time.
Yeah.
For me, the sleep is if I have less than 7.5, 8 hours, I will really consider if I train twice that day. I just I need that sleep. I need that recovery there.
That's so funny. As you were saying it, I was like, I thought you were going to say, I would consider whether to train at all, but you didn't. You said you can say to train twice.
Yeah.
And that is the difference between me and you.
But don't not every training what I do is your CrossFit class with warm up, strength part, skill part, and then workout. Sometimes I don't warm up. I come, do, leave. I mean, I have this philosophy that...
It's just here. It's great.
No time.
Yeah, I'm staring at a skier.
I'm trying to push for myself. Again, I'm not pushing this on anybody. That I want to be able to come to any sandbag I see and be able to lift it cold.
Whereas I want to do every workout, but sandbag it.
Yeah, I have sandbag in every workout. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
By the way, I have to say, because obviously we've known Paolo as a coach. It was very inspirational at our old gym to watch him do what he was doing. I think at one point you were doing some serious Wim Hof stuff, and at one point you were doing experiments with heat and with sweat.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, this guy is full on.
There's also things that we did with the StrongFit. I'm on the mentoring program. And basically, Julian is just throwing stuff for us to try.
It's great.
And that time, it was training in a wetsuit.
It was training in a wetsuit. I thought it was hilarious. I remember this.
You know what's funny? That out of probably, I don't know what we had, 450 members, you're probably one of 2 or 3 people who actually came and asked me what it is. Everybody else was just staring and going away.
Because it was just amazing the amount of fluid that was coming out.
Yeah. Doing a full workout in a wetsuit?
Yes, mainly specifically strength training.
Of course he was.
I wasn't doing it for cardio. I tried a few times, but I wasn't... The point is that the compression of the wetsuit on your muscles and the friction of the wetsuit is creating a strong sympathetic reaction to your body, and you can feel muscles better. The heat is not nice, but it also helps. It's you cannot spend more than 20-30 minutes in the wetsuit.
Absolutely.
And working out, because you will basically get the core temperature so high that you're close to passing out. Yeah.
Is there any growth hormone effect there because of the extra heat? You know, people talk about doing workouts in saunas, etc.
The heat was not the point. It's 80% of all your sympathetic neural connections are in the skin.
I did not know that.
And you can trigger them.
So just to be clear for anyone who's watching, sympathetic being ramping up.
Fight, flight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So your action mode.
Yeah.
All these receptors, 80% of them are in the skin. So
That's interesting.
So if you have something compressed and it's also rubbing, because the wetsuit is not sitting on you, it's rubbing. And we usually had one size smaller, so you get really good compression.
Yeah, you did.
Hey, I'm occasional surfer, and I've never had a wetsuit on the surfing, but I had wetsuit so many times in the gym.
It was very intense.
I'm still surprised because I'm a scuba diver, and if I'm in summer and wearing a wetsuit, I get cold easily underwater. So, bald head.
True.
It is.
40% of the heat is coming out of the head, right?
True.
Probably. So I can't imagine how you were working out. Imagine I'm in the surrounding of water. Okay, when I'm diving, I'm okay with it. But when I'm on the surface, it's too hot.
Well, there's a shit ton of stuff that you have to put into consideration. First of all, it's mostly strength training. Yes. I did some cardio, but that was very, very controlled with the EMOM. Yeah, there was some skier stuff.
Weird.
Maybe rower. You need to control the breathing a lot. So usually every set was very controlled with inhale through the nose, exhale through the nose, inhale on the concentric, exhale on the eccentric. And there is a lot of stuff that you kind of need to follow. Otherwise you will either freak out or you will just you will need to tear it down. It will be so strong. But the awareness that will build for your muscles Like I never could feel my lats like flexing. I couldn't do the pec dance, like when you're flexing the pecs. I can do it now thanks to that, because I learned how to operate every single muscle. Everything what we did on the movement clinic classes.
I'm worried now Wes is going to do it.
Yeah. So it can teach you a lot. Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Very interesting.
I actually think that I honestly, I see you as one of the apex people of doing the people I know of, because obviously you'll go on YouTube and see these bloody super high professionals in the States or whatever, but you commit to it in that regard. I sometimes think around food. If I compare it to you in a wetsuit doing something to test it out, hardcore, I don't even mean hardcore trying. I mean hardcore taking the time, getting the wetsuit, having that versus regular class member who just walks in, does the does the thing and then leaves. I think it's interesting because also your diet is akin to the wetsuit methodology as well at the moment.
Yeah,
which is not a problem. And by the way, I aspire to it. I think we all should aspire to it. It's just really interesting. I find that what I find really interesting is the people in the CrossFit class who are looking over at you. When it comes down to the wetsuit, they're like ridiculous. But when it comes down to your diet, they'll be like, I could do that. Because they know food.
And it's actually usually the opposite.
Yeah, but they
could do the training, but they couldn't do the
diet. The diet's 24 hours a day. Every day. It's really interesting.
Yeah. You just said a very important sentence, which is, I know food. Which is what brings us back to the point where you said, because we were born and since birth, we were eating.
Yeah.
So that people think that they know what food is, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's fine. It's just, they don't know the structure.
Chris, what is your take on supplements?
My broad take is that don't supplement something unless you know you actually need it, and whether that's blood work or whether it's clearly physiological. It's a bit like, for me, like the training day, rest day thing. I don't come at you and say you need to supplement with magnesium, zinc, vitamin D, and protein. I'll probably go, how are you feeling? How's your energy? How are your joints? Have you had any bloods done? For a start, that sorts of things, and then. For most people, though, as long as you can get the routine in and get a good degree of quality food in, you should be okay.
Yeah, I think we can really establish something what you already said in a different regard. Supplements companies and all the commercials, you are working in that environment. Were you doing also supplements?
No, apart from I did a very famous confectionery company made a very famous protein bar, and I was doing that.
Okay. They are after sales. Like what is always pissing me off, and I always talk about the BCAAs.
Yeah.
How they always sell them that, first of all, I don't think that it's only BCAAs if it tastes like a strawberry. Yeah. That's other thing, the actual content of it. But the other thing is that BCAAs as a brain chain amino acids, it's just 3 amino acids, valine, leucine, isoleucine, which are very essential for building the muscles. How they are marketed is you need them before training and through the training so your muscles don't break down.
Yeah.
Which is exact opposite of what muscles are supposed to do in the training.
Yeah,
they are supposed to break down and then the recovery comes after. So if somebody it's the same thing as having the steak before the training.
Exactly that.
You are not supposed to be in recovery mode when you're training. You're supposed to be in that catabolism, which is decomposition of the muscles tissues. And then after the anabolism comes in. And then there is another whole thing about how BCAAs are, again, by certain researchers, I don't know who was that and who were they backed up with. Yeah, but they are actually proven to a certain degree lower your natural ability to extract these amino acids from food. Yeah. Because body's like, why I would do it when I'm getting them regularly? Of course, it's when it's regular and in a big amount. Yeah. But body's like, why I would do it? Like with every replacement therapy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's problematic,
thing.
Right?
Hugely problematic. I always think, again, people think of these things as being like catch up. If you can get the basics right and get it through food, you should get it through food. BCAAs, I mean, I see a lot of the time it just feels like people just need something that tastes nice in water.
Yeah, because they just want sugary water, but they don't want it to be a sugar water, right?
100%.
So it seems, and it's presented as a sport drink.
Yeah,
so
as an essential as well.
Is not there.
I think also like the whole because in the industry I was in, food, everything is audited. People check stuff in food, right? So like, for example, the back of pack information, not here, but back of pack information, like in the States or in the UK, is checked. If that makes any sense, right? But it blows my mind how many people don't know. The back of a supplement pack, it says these statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drink Administration. It says it on virtually I would say it's on 99.9 reoccurring. In fact, it's on all supplements. And what that actually means is no one's regulating this. No one's checking. No one's looking. Because it's not a pharmaceutical and it's not food. It's a very grey area in the middle. A bit like nootropics. It's just no one really knows. And the world hasn't caught up with it yet. So if you walk into a chain pharmacy now and pick up any supplement, all of them, turn around, they all have the same statement, which basically means... we could be lying to you and there's nothing we can do about it. And there's nothing, that's what that means. There's nothing you can do about it. And no one's checking. Yeah. And the only person that's ever going to spend the money checking is us. Because we're the only ones who want to sell it. It's ridiculous. Nothing's ridiculous. So people say like, do I need BCAAs? I go, no. Do you need EAAs versus BCAAs? Do I need this? Do I need that? Do I need, beta, blah. I'm like, oh, how many times are you eating? How's your routine? Oh, right, it's messed up. Okay, great, let's do that.
It's called supplement for a reason.
Yeah, right? Exactly. It's a supplement on top. Exactly. I just find it mental. I'm yet to meet someone, apart from people who I'm yet to meet someone who's like a class goer. If I ever get even a mega 3s, great example. There you go. Look at the back of that. That's them telling you that it's not proven. Because if it was proven, if it was unequivocally proven, they wouldn't have to have the huge caveat on the thing. It's ridiculous.
Do you take any supplements? No.
Absolutely. Take them all. BCAAs. So the only time I take, I have taken protein powder and stuff like that because simply because I love the taste of it.
And what do you had? Whey?
Yeah, casein.
Casein.
Yeah, it stopped me snacking. But
try casein with heavy cream.
Oh, but it's amazing.
It's like...
Have you had casein?
No.
It thickens up. It's like a McDonald's milkshake with a straw.
Oh, wow.
It's like that. Mm-hmm. Like, it's quality in that regard.
But that's, for me, because it is a meal. That's how I can't tolerate that much heaviness.
Oh, no, it could be a meal. Or it depends on the person. For some people, that's not a meal. For some people, it is.
It's a dessert.
Yeah, it's a dessert. It all depends on the person. Yeah, is it a combo? Is it not? Is it a snack? I don't know. Depends.
Yeah, for me, it would definitely be because it is a meal. Because for me, it would be heavy. I can't.
Well, it is heavy. Let's establish it is heavy. Yeah. But don't get me wrong. To build up the tolerance to drink 500 milliliters of heavy cream every day, it wasn't from day one.
You disappoint me. You should absolutely smashed it.
You should have seen how you reacted when he said 3.
Well, first I was like, what? That's crazy. I've been known to take glutamine. I've been known to take omega-3s, joint stuff, really, like that stuff. But it's just the more you learn,
like glucosamine and
glucosamine. So and the more you learn about the stuff, the more you realize that we don't really know. Mm-hmm. This is the thing, we don't really know. There are some things that, like, again, and this is the point where I'm not on a pedestal. I'm just like everyone else. Like, and we're all the same. We're just trying to be better informed consumers, and we're all learning as we go, sort of thing. So, like, I find that it could be psychosomatic. By the way, it could be a placebo. I do find that I get quite bad wrist pain.
Isn't whole life placebo?
The whole thing's placebo, right? Exactly. So I feel better when I take omega-3s.
And I take omega-3s every single morning.
Yeah, and funnily enough, the clients I work with who take them all the time, as in, don't seem to get injured. Is that a placebo effect? Don't know. But they don't get injured. But the ones who don't take anything seem to always come out with, risk this, that. But is that anecdotal?
Is this just the Chris playing with the mind?
Programming everybody. Am I actually an investor in that? The thing is, it's crazy. And am I only, and that's the bias thing, the whole, am I looking out for that now? Because I'm taking them and I know there are 100 dirhams and So, I don't generally, on my plans, I'll be drinks, and I always just, I'm supplements. If someone's taking supplements though, I don't tell them to stop. Mm-hmm. So if someone takes a multivitamin, for example, I'm not gonna. I don't know anything about this person and why. Oh, you need to do that. It's no. If someone says every day I am shooting up heroin, I'll probably tell them to stop. Right? You know what I mean? Probably.
No, not for sure.
Well, and I've got clients who who smoke shisha. It's a great example. Shisha's a great example, actually, of something that is socially quite powerful, but not great. Not great proven, and also not great for your cardio ability, not great for training and stuff. I'll talk to them about that. It's those sorts of things. But I'm a very practical man in that sense. I'm actually not practical. I can't change a light bulb. But with my nutrition plans, I'm very practical. I'm never going to say you need to add more ginseng into your mornings. It's going to change. It's going to do nothing.
If you don't change anything else.
It's going to do. And even if you do it in the ginseng, mate, it's not. It's not. That's not what it is. That's what I think.
Have you worked with somebody who was actually taking some PEDs? Performance enhancing drugs?
I've worked with people who, I've not worked with anyone who's actively taking PEDs, or at least if they are, they're not telling me, right? Because that is an assumption that Chris will, I become quite close to the people I work with, right? Because you have to. But some things people don't tell themselves, let alone me. But I've worked with people who have taken PEDs in the past. I've taken people who've got immense amounts of muscle mass and things, because they've taken them years ago, or potentially, or maybe it wasn't years ago, sort of thing. You just don't really. Okay. I don't have
just
conversations.
The whole idea of hormonal regulation, glucose regulation in the body, and is completely different when there are drugs involved. I mean, performance enhancing.
So I don't.
So that's why I'm asking.
Yeah. So no. The answer is no. And but also it depends on the world you're operating in, doesn't it? So for example, the bodybuilding world, my brief forays into it. When I'm talking, because when I'm working with people who are, who might, I have to say yes or no to people, I've now told you, and I've had conversations in that world that are quite blatant. Well, it's not blatant. It's just, this is how it is. That's how it is, sort of thing. And also, by the way, speaking back to I'm not qualified for this. I'm not qualified for it. I'm the secretary who just gets your life in order. I'm that guy. I'm not the guy that's going to say, you need to take a stack of this, do this. This is your recovery protocol. Same with water cutting. I'm not an expert. And also it's dangerous, but I'm not an expert in it. So I have done water cuts, for example, with people pre MMA fights and stuff, right? With the full disclosure that I'm just the best water cut guide I ever got was just in the back of the Precision Nutrition Handbook. Just 14 days out. Oh, I'm just literally here's the book. I'm just going to do it with you.
So the picture.
But I'm actually going to tell you I'm going to tell you right away, day 2. Okay. I don't know. But again, I'm not an expert in that. It's interesting. You read, you hear about people because there are guys who make money out of that, specialists for UFC, right? Who are just water cut experts.
There's a lot of protocols for that.
Yeah, there are.
Last week I was talking with 2 BJJ black belts who were talking about how they were doing it. The lady, Deborah, she was here. She said she rather trained and competed in the same weight category as she was walking around the whole year because she didn't want to go through that.
Yeah.
She just liked food. She trained harder to just adjust the last 1-2 kilos and competed one category higher than actually trying to make a 10 kilo cut, which would be
life-threatening.
20%, right, of the body weight down.
You need to put on a wetsuit, go on a ski erg.
Yeah.
Sit in a bath of salt.
Sorry?
Sit in a bath of salt, get in the sauna. This is the thing. I don't know how to do that. And I'm not interested in it, to be honest. As in, I'm interested in it as a sort of pure, the same way I'm interested in any sort of pure spectacle. So for example, if I'm working with someone who wants to do those sorts of things, I will refer out.
I'll tell you one story. We might cut it out after. I was certain time working in a gym where I met this guy who was very good at distributing, let's say, well, it was insulin.
Oh, okay, all right.
It was insulin directly, yeah. And one day he came, and no kidding, I've seen him like going into the toilet and then going out of toilet after 4.5 hours.
Wow.
And he at that moment I thought like there's something very wrong and he's going like through a chemo or something.
Yeah, exactly.
When I saw
he
him.
might have IBS or something like.
And this was happening. I wasn't really close to him, so I wasn't really, interfering there.
Yeah, I can't imagine you were.
But after a couple of weeks, we just met and he was in his normal. We started to talk and I asked him, like, what was going on? Like, you were sick? And he was like, overdose. It's like, what? So basically for him, it was normal that when he had some new protocol for clients, he was testing it on himself, like full on, which like all credit to the guy. He didn't mess up anybody else. He first messed up himself. And he basically was taking way too much insulin as an anabolic hormone for building muscles.
How did he look? Did he look amazing? Was he massive?
Massive, not amazing.
But he was huge.
Yeah, like he was huge. I mean, not when he was looking very sick. That was terrible. That was terrible.
But he never looked like world.
But he was like
class.
he was no, by far not. It was, let's say, not enough definition.
Right.
It was like a mass. A huge amount of mass, but it was it.
Great bouncer in a club.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was just a little shorter, but but he was actually saying that he messed up the protocol because he wasn't taking enough carbs immediately after he was pounding the insulin. Then within a couple of weeks, I've seen a lot of people walking around with the Coca-Cola bottles.
Yeah, everyone's suddenly smashing them as fast as possible.
So that's what they started to all do, because he had like a whole training crew around him who were doing this. Yeah.
Again, that's that thing about, duty of care. Now, I'm not a doctor. I haven't signed the Hippocratic Oath.
I can tell you he wasn't doctor either.
Yeah. But imagine doing that, like that, taking that risk. I mean, I think that's a massive risk, moral risk as well. As well as a legal risk.
Do you think he thinks morally about this?
No, probably not. No, exactly.
I mean, I never heard of him hurting anybody.
Yeah.
Don't know about that. But this was like a very eye-opening and strong experience for me. Just this conversation, he was basically talking about how he got himself to a chronic hypoglycemia where he couldn't even get out of there because he was just...
Was this a strength and conditioning gym? Was it like a standard, was it a Globo gym type thing?
It was a global gym.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, it seems to happen more there, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, this is happening way more than we would like to see.
Yeah, 100%, exactly. But that's because people like to shortcut it.
You know that in certain gyms in Dubai, you can actually find on the wall, like you have, please don't...
I've seen it, the warnings.
The warnings.
I've seen them.
Don't leave your needles out.
I've literally seen them. There's a few on Shadeside Road. I've seen them.
Yeah.
I was like...
Serious?
Yeah, in the gym. Yeah, because... it's a common problem in the gym. So somebody, when you have a gym where the doors are leaking the AC, you will put a sign, close the door. Mm-hmm. They had the problem.
It's a functional sign,
functional sign. There was a lot of needles going around, so they just said, please don't leave your needles unattended.
It's incredible, and again, it's all part of there's different cliques and crews in fitness, isn't there? Different types of things, and it's definitely... Of the gyms I've been to, and I can always think to the gyms I've been to and the people I'm meeting at those gyms, you could predict in a sense that you're going to see those signs. There are other places when you go and you're like, I'm never going to see that.
It's a culture of the
So you can see, you almost can tell. It's interesting, very interesting.
Yeah, cool. Chris, do you have any message for people?
A message for people. My message to people would be. life gets in the way, I think, of all our best intentions. So you're doing great. That's what I'd say to people. I'd say you're doing great. And I think regardless of where you're at right now, because the world is a hard place to navigate for anyone right now. And so all I would say is knowing that you're doing great, there's probably one or maybe two things you could optimize that make you a little bit better. And you should look at what those things are.
Cool. Thank you very much.
No worries at all, guys. It's awesome.
Cool.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
It was awesome. I want one of these. Ding!